Hello, everyone. Welcome back to week number 2 of the CCS Apollo League. My name is Septi, joined alongside Orion doing color tonight. Orion, how you doing on this wonderful Monday evening?
I'm good. I'm good. Excited to get week two officially going here, as we do see, both these teams, with a slight delay, with not actually being ready to start on time. Unfortunately, we've got all bands already in there. We see Nefiri, Nocturne, Ash already banned away from Iota, and then for Lotus, obviously they banned Varus, Nico, and Karma, champions that are usually very picked early on in the draft. So curious to see what both these teams are actually going to focus on today.
Yeah, and as you sort of alluded to, we got our teams on the Rift today. We got Dorado Gaming Iota versus Lotus. Already into our first round pick. Ezreal has been sort of popping up there as one of those picks. I'm sort of surprised to see such high prio on it, especially with Karma and Nico bans, because those are some pretty strong pairings that generally give Ezreal a lot more prio. And with those premier supports not really available, I'm curious to see what they decide to match it up with.
Yeah, especially since you've got Crispy, who did have a very solid showing on Kaisa already. In that lock-in tournament, usually a very strong combination into Ezreal are champions like Nautilus, like Kaisa, that can stick onto him very easily. So, like you were saying, interested to see what the ideal pairing is going to be. You can still kind of go like that tanky frontline champion like a Leona or a Braum to make it a little bit easier at times, but it is one of those things that it's probably not the most optimal pairing, as we are going to go see an Ori locked in into the Oriana that is already picked by Strawberry Moon.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty solid standard matchup. It will definitely be a bit Ari favored early on, just being able to get the push with the Qs, and so curious to see if they match that up with a jungler that will thrive with the priority given to them by their mid laner. Just a quick note on the matchup tonight with regard to rosters. Gargumba is not going to be in the lineup tonight for Lotus. It is going to be Stubby playing top lane. Um, so there might be some different drafts. I think Stubby is more of a Mordekaiser player. I saw some Zillion in the top lane, so I'm curious to see if we get some of those shenanigans. Pantheon going to be the lock presumably for jungle for the side of Dorado.
Yeah, obviously, Pantheon does kind of have that ability to be a little bit flexible. He can be a jungler and a support at times, but for the most part, he is probably just going to be slotting into that jungle as we're going to see a very dive heavy. Oh, maybe okay. Yeah, so still very engage heavy type of composition here, trying to really pull that trigger first and try to start a lot of these fights here for the side of Lotus. So I do kind of like what they've already drafted so far. It signals that they're the ones that are looking to really kind of get these fights going and starting them early. So I'll kind of like to see the fact that they've identified what type of composition they really want to go for. So now I feel like they have a pretty good identity in terms of champs that they're kind of looking to ban away. I would ban away those champions that basically do a fairly good job at basically denying a lot of that engage. Like Seraphine obviously can do one of those things. I still would think, if you are, I would imagine you're going to pick a melee support here if you are Lotus. So, like, even though it's like not the most ideal pairing, a Braum band could also work out fairly well for you, or like an Alistar, depending on how they see the draft going. Oh, there it is. Possibly. Oh,
Yeah, they
headshot.
must be listening in. I think Alistar as well would be super good for this red side here on 4. Just that ball delivery alongside the secondary engage or primary, allowing Wukong to sort of wait a little bit longer before having to go in. It
Mhm.
also sets with the Kai'Sa really nicely, giving her those plasma stacks. Um, but I'm not sure what we're going to see here. I mean, logic says that Alistar would probably be the right pick, or Nautilus, or some sort of go in button. But a lot of teams do value that support counter pick very highly. But probably in this
Mhm.
rank, it is just allowing for the top laner to get counter. Despite the fact that support counter, especially in a Kai'Sa lane, I think is really important.
Yeah.
Um, it's gonna be Rakan. That is certainly potentially a ball delivery tool. Maokai as well. I don't know if I like the Maokai as much.
Well, it is one of those things too. I mean, obviously for Lotus' situation, they are using a sub top laner. So if I was on Lotus, I would probably give more priority over the people that are actually your main roster, and then not necessarily to throw your top laner kind of into the wind, but you would imagine that the sub top laner probably isn't going to do as well into like their main top laner, even in ranks like this. So, but instead, picking a champion that obviously does kind of have a little bit of flexibility. We're talking about Stubby a little bit. He does kind of have a weird champion pool. Doesn't necessarily play a ton of games. on his OP.GG, but he does have enough to where he kind of just plays whatever he feels like, doesn't necessarily stick to a specific niche of a champion pool. So a champion like Maokai does have the ability to kind of go in both ways, but Milio being the answer into the Maokai, very solid pick. You can basically immediately cleanse away his ultimate and try to reposition your allies. So I like that pick to kind of come through to kind of negate a lot of what Maokai's ability is kind of to do here. And then really you still just have that last pick up in the top lane here from the side of Dorado Gaming Iota. Obviously, probably playing front to back, I would say, just kind of considering what combos they already have and picking, I would say, one of the better front to back champions in the entire game in the Scion.
Yeah, I think in isolation, Milio is really good here. I don't like it as much as a pairing alongside the Ezreal. I suppose the lethal tempo is going to be nice with the cozy campfire to get that extra attack range, but it doesn't provide as much in terms of getting priority. As we look to see what this last pick will be on five, Cho'Gath, Gnar, the hovers, I think both are pretty good. Gnar probably is maybe a little bit stronger as the game goes on. Cho'Gath will be very hard to cut through. What I will say about this Lotus comp is while, the first three picks are fairly synergistic, Maokai as well, they are very hard to cut through. Oriana will probably have either a Seraph Shield or just a lot of health from her build. The Kaisa as well, very mobile with her ulti, with her E, and so actually locking anyone down on this Lotus side is gonna be a little bit tricky as we look from potentially top to bot here. It's going to be Stubby on that top side on the Cho'Gath, Wukong in the jungle for Aftermoon, Strawberry Moon on Oriana. We got Crispy on Kaisa, and then Shibs on Maokai. I kind of want to talk about the mid matchup, the mid jungle matchup, because I think this Oriana Wukong is going to be really strong post level 6, but getting there is going to be a little bit difficult because I think on the other side, the matchup with Ari and, if I'm not mistaken, it is I'm forgetting the other jungler right now, Pantheon, is going to be really strong in those first couple levels, and so getting to that level 6 crab might be tough for the Lotus jungler.
Yeah, I think I can agree with that. I think for the most part, the early game like prowess from Dorado Gaming Iota will definitely be a lot higher. I think you should have the push in the bot lane with Ezreal, Emilio, and then Ori should be able to kind of dictate the pace of the lane a little bit early. I think obviously Oriana does have a little bit easier trading patterns for the most part into the Ori. But it can be a very volatile lane if the charm were to land into a Pantheon stun. Top lane obviously is just going to be a gigantic nothing burner for the most part. You've got Scion, you got Cho'Gath, slapping each other with their wet noodles for the majority of the game. So really, I think it's really gonna come down to a lot of these team fights to come through. I think mostly from the side of Lotus, it's gonna be how clean their execution of these team fights are really gonna play out. Because you've got essentially kind of in some ways a wombo combo type of composition where if you don't land a proper cyclone into a Oriana Shockwave, then all of a sudden like Ezreal and Ari can both very easily kite away, create some space, and all of a sudden you can run out of gas fairly quickly. And we also saw a little bit at times like Crispy kind of had his moments of basically going on some solo missions on that Kaisa, where he would overextend himself, get himself into some dangerous situations, and ultimately ended up costing his team a couple of team fights we saw in that lock-in tournament. So if they were to play their composition out in that way, they would probably have a little bit of problems. But if they have very clean executions and landing multi-man CCs, then they should be able to just kind of run right through because the only major front line they have is the Scion, right? So if they're able to just kind of ignore him and basically go through him, they will have the ability to kind of basically go right through him essentially.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of do like the way that the red side is constructed here. I think it's going to allow for some very straightforward team fighting. You talked about it being a wombo combo comp. I think there's a lot of ways they could even fight these with more than one delivery tool for the Oriana ball. It's going to be a lot for Dorado to keep a track of. I do think, however, in the side lane, if you're talking about spreading the map out and really using that Pantheon ulti, Dorado Gaming Iota has some pretty good champions to do that. Sion will probably outpush the Cho'Gath, I believe, especially once they start getting more items. Ari as well will never lose to the Oriana in side lane unless massive missteps, allowing for some command attacks and dissonance to chunk out the Ari. But also, most importantly, is your bot lane duo in the mid lane should be very safe from a lot of these engages. The Milio being able to potentially knock away any diver who's trying to make an Oriana ball play, with the soccer ball, the arcane shift as well from Ezreal, just really allows them to spread the map out and rely on that safety to sort of keep themselves in the game and allowing to match the push of this Kai'Sa, who has some relatively low range, considering the champions she's up against.
Yeah, I definitely could agree. I think obviously, when we saw both of these teams during the lock-in, we obviously saw Lotus being a very dominant team, ended up winning the entire thing. But Dorado Gaming and Iota 2-0 their very first week, where we saw Lotus actually getting 0-2'd in their matchups. So obviously, it's very early on in the season. A lot of these teams are still trying to figure some things out, but ultimately, if you're Lotus, you're really trying to kind of get yourself back into a good standing within obviously the actual standings, but also within yourself, saying, hey, we don't want lock in to essentially just kind of be a fluke. But you also have a team like Dorado Gaming Iota where they can really take a stranglehold very early on in the season in terms of the very top of the standings. And you got a team like Dorado Gaming, or I guess Dorado Gaming as an organization that has fairly high standards for themselves. So this would be one of those games where they're very much looking forward to see how far they can really push Lotus down in the standings.
Yeah, I mean, these are all some interesting points that I'm curious to see how the game goes. But before we take a quick break, to wait for the spectator delay, I do want to remind everyone about our sweet new rage bait feature that we got here at the CCS. For 500,000 channel points or for a free sub, you get one rage bait per month. Keep in mind that is only one free rage bait, or one free rage bait per sub per month. And you can use it only once per game and once per month. They do not carry over from month to month. Make sure that you use it or lose it. And if you want to try and get yourself shown on screen, make sure to message Flay or Redacted for any questions and requests. And then also make sure that your Twitch and Discord accounts are linked, so that you can gain access to our subs only channel in the Discord. And with that, we're going to take a short break to allow for the spectator delay. So stick around. We will be right back with game number 1 of Dorado Gaming Iota versus Lotus. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Dorado Gaming Iota versus Lotus. We are on the Rift game number 1
Welcome
of this
to
best of 3
Summoner's
series.
Rift.
We're back with week 2 of Apollo. I'm so excited to get back into this. We got some explosive matchups on the Rift. 2 junglers not taking health potions.
Minions have
Trying
spawned.
to be as greedy as possible. Pretty standard. Walking into that mid bush spot. Going on too much. DFT on the Ahri means Ackerman will take a fair amount of health. But both junglers now should know that they're starting on their respective top sides.
Yeah, especially with how with Rise changes for his cap. Man, once you commit to one side, it's pretty hard to actually get to the other side. You know, obviously, I kind of like the flexibility of things happening. But Rise, last time, you know, the lane swaps and all that stuff. It used to be kind of cool, you know, for a little while. Then we got boring pretty quickly.
I'm not a big fan of it because sometimes just
God, get this!
and so I'll just lose my balance when I start talking percent of the games I play.
Well, nowadays, though, I mean, especially with how bot laners like really start playing very early aggressively in lane, like you saw, obviously both bot lanes this game sprinted down their bot lane respectively, placed a ward in that middle bush, try to play just for a little bit extra pressure. You know, it's like there's no real way that they can actually protect, you know, jungler. We've seen many times, specifically like in higher levels of leagues, where junglers will just immediately go across, like they'll do one camp and they'll just immediately go to the other side of the map if they have the ability to get over the wall, and kind of make a play aggressively. So, I mean, we've seen that like adaptation happen, but overall, I mean, it's fairly standard to kind of have a whole bunch of like, you know, just very smooth early farming happening for the junglers, just to kind of see how quickly they can get to level 6, because more often than not, a lot of junglers that are being picked nowadays are definitely junglers that kind of rely on having their ultimate abilities to really make a lot of things happen. Obviously, Pantheon can really make things happen early without having his ultimate, but a champion like Wukong, if he really wants to make a gank successful, he kind of does need that ultimate ability, unless they're just way overextended.
Yeah, I mean, or in this game, you have a lot of gank setup, which is the case for both Stubby and for Shibs on the top and bot lane, respectively. They, I mean, are able to set up these plays potentially as Kali G is already out of mana on this top side. Curious to see how that one plays out. This Scion has been trading so aggressively and has been getting, I think, almost every single decimating smash canceled by Stubby's silence. As both junglers now going to meet on the crab. After does have the advantage here. Going to maybe try and go in. Smite will go the way of the Wukong as we get our fighting going on in the bot side. CJ Lopez taking a lot of damage. Both Conquerors stacked. The Lotus mid laner moves first, but flash stun coming from the Pantheon, and it will be first blood going the way of the Ahri, as well as a follow-up kill for their jungler. Shibs now a little too close. As it goes to be Monoxia and Loveless trying to walk them down here. The Ezreal is able to chase very quickly as Loveless trying to walk around. I don't know about this one. Might be able to get the root as well down onto the Milio. Not a very tanky champion as Loveless trying to walk out of this one. Should be forced to use summoners here. Will use the heal. Will use the flashes. Crispy going to be able to go forward and get the first trade kill of this sequence here. But it will be another kill going the way of Anaxia. And it will be a double now for the AD carry of Dorado Gaming Iota and a 4-for-1 with less than 4 minutes into the game. Orion, we are cooking.
Yeah, honestly, we just kind of talked about both these junglers, you know, really having to have access to their ultimate abilities to make things happen. But we talked about the Scuttle Crabs being very important in terms of getting that early push. But, you know, like I said, very early in draft, Ezreal and Milio are going to have the first move out of the initial push because, I mean, they can outlane the Kaisa and the Maokai very early on to the range. Here's the replay happening. Early move here, and Ackerman, the second he sees Loveless, following immediately afterwards to land a flash afterwards as well. And then obviously the preceding play was just chasing down the remaining 2 members. If Lotus really wanted to, they could have very easily just walked out scot-free and not lost members, but Crispy, without having flash, made that again.
Yeah, Crispy going so low. Mystic shot going just wide, but flash forward from Anaxia will be another kill for the AD carry of Dorado Gaming, but the price being CJ Lopez is going to walk into a trap here. Does have the E available, should be able to walk this one out, will not get the smite onto their own Raptors. Will get the move speed from the empowered E, and that should be all she wrote. I mean, good play to deny the Raptors, but really unfortunate. Crispy has to be better there. Cannot be dying as a decimating smash will welcome Stubby to lane as Kelly actually doing a lot of damage here. Does have the R available.
He does
Is
have
going to
R.
use it to interrupt the knockup. Stubby going lower and lower. Does have flash available. Should be able to use a decimating smash charged.
Yeah.
Will be flashed by the Lotus top laner.
Yeah.
And we are cooking in this one. There's a lot of kills. There's a lot of action going on.
6 minutes, 6 kills in only less than 6 minutes is usually a very fast pace. But like you were saying, if your team is going to be aggressive in the enemy team's jungler and try to make a play on the Raptors, you can't be that far up in the lane when you know that the safety net of your team is not with you, especially as an AD carry without flash, right? So gigantic mistake there for Crispy in the bottom side. Definitely a mistake that he would like to have back, considering his team is now down 2,000 gold. And, Dorado Gaming Iota is going to look to start up this dragon here. Obviously, CJ Lopez recognizes that his bot lane is much stronger at the current moment, so he should be fairly okay to kind of start this one up. I don't necessarily know if they have full information of where Aftermoon truly is, but he obviously feels fairly confident. And with the actual pushing here of Monoxia and Loveless, he should be able to relatively get this one nice and easy. As we do see, Aftermoon going up for that Crux. He does have camp spawning down with his Crux and the red buff. Kelly G's wave is a little awkward for him. He does actually have flash if he wanted to do anything crazy, but it's going to be hard to gank the Scion for Stubby and Aftermoon. They may try and make it work, but honestly, I don't know. I think it'd be a little much.
Yeah, Feast is not available. We'll be going in. Flash going to be forced with the Cyclone use as well.
Rage Bait.
Let's take a look. The first one here from community member Frick. I thought that was the message for a second.
Wait, is it not? I think it is. I think
CCS
it is Frick.
Community member. It is just Frick.
Huh. Okay, it's possible that it may be a slight production error. But
you know what? Either way, great rage bait. Frick.
I mean, honestly, that's honestly. I mean, if you're Lotus,
it's quality.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if you're Lotus at this moment, that's probably how they're feeling. They're like, man, freak, bro. Like, this game is a very difficult situation already. We're seeing this bot lane being pushed consistently underneath their tower with no real remorse coming through from Dorado Gaming Iota. Obviously, Aftermoon making a potential visit into the Raptors, but it is seen on that control ward, so they have full vision of where Aftermoon truly is. So I think if you're Dorado Gaming Iota, your bot lane should obviously start playing a little bit more respectfully here because they know that he's down here. Yeah, that's true. He doesn't have Cyclone.
No Nature's Grasp. And spotted fully.
Yeah.
Aftermoon is sort of, just waiting, I guess, for the bot camps to spawn up. We'll be able to sequence up towards that top side and maybe look to punish Cali G's. I gotta point this out because this is now really problematic for Aftermoon. Yes, you're pathing up towards your grubs, but your camps now, if you want to do them with any sort of efficiency, are going to be sequencing up for a very long time moving forward. And to get this game going, you really need to start getting Crispy and Strawberry Moon involved and pathing to your sub top laner, whose only job on this Cho'Gath really is to get gold and get HP, I don't think is what your Wukong wants to be doing, especially now considering that Pantheon as well has so much free time on the map with no camps of their own to take, and is going to be able to use that temple to get a reset and get very close to finishing that Sundered Sky, only 500 gold away now. But the Ahri is here in the top, and we are just ganking full HP top laners, I guess, today.
Yeah, it is definitely an awkward situation. MBK does have access to the ultimate, but this still is a tanky Cho'Gath. So with him being this close to the tower, yeah, obviously great movement there by Stubby. But if everything lands, I still feel like he survives with at least 20% of his HP. So really, it's kind of just a whatever roam from MBK, and he's already down about 14 CS in that mid lane. Yes, he does have the 1 kill and the 1 assist, so his gold should be relatively even compared to Strawberry Moon. If not a little bit ahead, considering he does have the bounty. But obviously, if he continues to have similar roams to that over and over again, then all of a sudden he's going to continuously kind of start falling a little bit behind. And kind of like you said, with getting their bot lane into the game a little bit, we do see Shivs has based and made his way up into the top half of the map and play for those grubs with the Wukong. So maybe saying, hey, I know our bot lane's in a pretty dire situation, but we can at least affect the map in other ways, because I don't really think, even if they were down here, they really couldn't do anything about it. But Crispy does have to be very careful. Monoxia landing several Mystic shots back and forth to try to get a lot of damage here. We do see another roam down here from NBK as well, trying to really sacrifice his own lane for the betterment of his team.
Yeah, not really sure what we're doing in mid. Normally these roams come when you full combo a wave, you knock it down, and NBK is sort of roaming a little bit too early. not following the proper steps. But to be honest, if I'm CJ Lopez in this game state and I'm able to just get another full clear of my jungle camps. Also, look at this. We're seeing this now in full. Aftermoon is taking their Krugs, but the first cam to spawn is going to be that Gromp on the bot side, and he has nothing else to take and is forced to walk all the way here before taking a base. Like, so much time is being wasted, and it will allow the Pantheon to use the Grand Skyfall into the bot lane. Will land onto Crispy here. Stun. No, not going to land. Will use the Killer Instinct to go onto Loveless, who is very low, is forced to flash and heal away.
Strawberry.
The Orianna ball in the back as well. Going to try and trap CJ Lopez under tower. The tower shot will take them down. Shutdown going the Orianna's way, but Crispy will be paying the prices. Minaxia as well on the other side will go down. Double kill to Strawberry Moon as MBK now trying to use the Spirit Rush to fight something back. Will land the charge onto the Orianna. Not quite enough damage. Flash forward from the Ori. Will use the Ignite to get the kill onto the Orianna. One more reset on the Spirit Rush. Shiv's going so low. It is not going to fall down to the charm, and it will be, I believe, a 3-for-3. Or no, a 2-for-3, sorry, in favor of Lotus. But some kills going into the Orianna's pocket. Very good. Getting some gold as well onto, I believe it was Crispy. Getting that kill onto... Actually, no, it wasn't. Crispy was just trying to run down Loveless.
Yeah, honestly, it's just a sloppy dive from Dorado giving Iota. We saw Loveless try to get the initial tank, but Crispy did a fantastic job ulting back through him to buy so much space for his team to really catch up to the play. And then we saw, obviously, Monaxia, unfortunately, failing that flash over the wall was a huge deal there. And Strawberry Moon going to end up calling here as well, too, at DK. And honestly, it was so close to picking up the kill there onto Shivs. If that charm would have landed, it would have actually ended up being the kill. But, oh, more action.
Yeah, we're on CJ Lopez. Going to be using that E to stall out just a bit. Should just be some friendly trading of damage as True Shot Barrage. Going to go a little bit wide, but get a chunk onto Aftermoon. As a very nice Q onto CJ Lopez. Interrupts that stun as Strawberry Moon very close to getting that shockwave back, and will be using it to zone Minaxia for the time being. Ball on to
Scion.
I believe. Here's the Scion. Cyclone used onto NBK. The Ahri going solo. No Spirit Rush available as it will be Orianna going down first. Scion as well trying to use Decimating Smash to create from space. W is here. Has the flash on the Cho'Gath. Kali G walking them down. Mystic shots flying over the top. Decimating Smash will land onto the Cho'Gath. Going so low. Stubby forced to flash away. Is going to land the knock onto many, but it's not going to be enough. Minaxia finding another kill in this fight. Getting a kill onto the Cho'Gath as well as, I believe it was, onto Strawberry Moon. Very nicely well played. Dorado Gaming going to secure the dragon.
Yeah, I think it was just an overstep there from Lotus. They tried to use a little bit of that momentum where they're, okay, we kind of salvaged that last little bitty play. Maybe we can play for this next fight as well. But it's one of those things where Dorado Gaming Iota is still up several items. You have Trinity Force on Ezreal, Malignance on this Ahri, and really you see Scion ulting down. And obviously Stubby did end up TPing here, but unfortunately Scion is so much better at holding up this space because of where the battle lines were drawn in this fight. We saw Strawberry Moon way off to the right side, being very distant from his team. Monaxia able to pick up that kill as well, and then doing a nice job standing behind his front line in the Scion, able to dash aggressively forward with that arcane shift, picking up another kill as well. And like I was saying, just looking, like, obviously during that fight, huge item differentials there. Scion completing his full tank item. You had the Malignance on Ahri, Trinity Force on Ezreal, and you've got Wukong that just now finished his Triforce, a Cho'Gath that doesn't even has his completed item yet. So, I mean, odds are just simply due to the item differences. Like, I think that just the gold difference there is a huge reason why Dorado Gaming Iota ended up winning that fight, alongside of, I feel like, some mispositioning there from the side of Lotus.
Is this a Heartsteel Cho'Gath? Is that what I'm seeing?
That
or anything else that'd be double giant spelled.
Yeah, it could be straight Warmogs.
Could be straight Warmogs.
So, well, the tier could also mean Fimbulwinter.
It could, but I mean, I feel like we've just been baited by these top laners just buying tier for the sake of
That is true.
usage.
It is true.
Minaxia is doing a great job on the spot side though. 5-1-2, 120 CS, just below 10 CPS per minute. But I mean, after that early game, after getting 2 kills in lane, Aftermoon is going to get spotted almost immediately here. The ship's still trying to make it work. Pantheon does have the Grand Skyfall behind if they wanted to try and bait something out with the Breath of Life. Shifting forward, Minaxia trying to bait so heavily here. As, oh my god, the Ezreal damage is just
Yeah.
immense at this
And
moment.
it's not like they have a good way on top of them either. The only way they can do it is if a very slow, long range Maokai R that is incredibly telegraphed, and then they had full vision of the Wukong. So, like you said, if they ever started a fight, by the time the fight was even halfway over, Pantheon would just be ulting right over the top to just cause so much disruption that they would have ended up losing. It's MBK looking for a fight.
Here's going to be Charm going to land onto the Orianna. Will be able to knock it down. Stun for the Pantheon. Will knock down the Lotus mid laner. And the duo, Ahri and Pantheon, we talked about it a bit in draft, is so dangerous. I wasn't sure if Stubby disconnected there for a second or not, but the BM Rupture as the top winners. This is the wet noodle fight that we haven't seen in a very long time. What is going on? The Vorpal spikes doing so much percent health damage from the Scion. Oh my goodness. I miss these days of top laners just bashing heads against each other. Now everyone's just playing wave states, and it's so boring.
Yeah, I mean, back in the day, back in the day, top lane used to be Street Fighter. You know, that's kind of what everyone used to consider it as, because top laners, you know, really just kept on fighting all over and over again with little to no thought behind any of their planes. But it is going to be a rotation over here for this Rift Herald, and with Lotus being as far behind as they are, it's going to be very hard for Lotus to really ever look for a fight, because when you have a composition that Lotus has drafted for themselves, they are very much a full-on engaged composition here, as MBK does not have ultimate here, so I think Charlie Moon can actually win this trade.
Going super low, MBK, I don't know what you're doing.
Oh, actually.
Okay. And it's a trade, what the heck?
Yeah, with the ignite over the top with the burn coming through from I think DFT did ended up resulting in that kill there on the Starberry Moon. I think I like the fact that he was willing to flash forward aggressively trying to pick up that kill there, but when he flashed, he did flash into the turret range, so that was just enough to secure the kill back in Dorado Gaming Iota's favor. But like I was saying a second ago, with the composition that Lotus has drafted for themselves, they don't really have the greatest comeback mechanics, because they don't really have a great way of stalling out game, right? Because they are a full engaged composition. They don't really, like, Kai'Sa does not really like to kite backwards. Orianna, like, kind of can, but champions like Wukong, champions like Maokai, like, these guys don't like to play back. Yeah, sure.
I need to interrupt you. What item did Strawberry Moon just buy?
Tunnel? Oh, no, sorry. Protobelt.
My ball knowledge isn't there.
That is the common mid lane pick item now. Actually, is Protobelt for almost every mage.
Okay, whatever. Doesn't matter. Nature Forgotten going. Cyclone on to 3. Breath of Life going to try and keep him alive. Will not be enough as the Pantheon goes down. Crispy now trying to go in with the Killer Instinct. Going to use all 3 of the Spirit Rush charges to get into this fight, but it will just be a 1-for-0 so far. Kali G trying to find a way to continue this fight. Knock up onto NBK. Not going to be enough there as Kali G forces to slink away from this fight. Strawberry Moon doing so much damage with the command attack and the command dissonance, as Monoxia trying to find some trade damage onto the other team. Lotus very low, respectfully. Monoxia just firing away, getting those lethal temple stacks onto Stubby. This main smash going to go wide as the shift forward onto Crispy will be there. Rupture will land onto Monoxia. Very close from Crispy, forced to use the barrier. But here we go on the bot side as well. It will be Strawberry Moon and Aftermoon trying to get that space reclaimed for Lotus, as Kali G very close to the edge of this fight. It will be potentially Shockwave coming in as Grand Skyfall as well for the Pantheon. Going to land onto 3. It will be a double kill. Now a triple kill from the side of Dorado Gaming. Down goes the Ahri, but it will not be enough. 4 for 1 so far in favor of Dorado Gaming. Stubby now left to the Wolves. It's going to be the Pantheon stun into the Decimating Smash into an ace for the side of Dorado Gaming Iota.
Yeah, honestly, it looked good initially from Lotus. They got the initial kill there, but kind of like I was saying a little bit during the draft, the second they go for the initial fight, they run out of gas really quickly when they use a lot of their spells. So here's that initial kill, I believe, on a CJ Lopez. They're going to end up using a Shockwave. They're going to use a lot of. They're going to use a Cyclone as well. So all of a sudden, okay, use 3 of your major engage tools when Monoxia still has full HP. So the rest of the Dorado Gaming Iota says, okay, we can actually still posture very aggressively forward. There's not really much they can do as Monoxia's full HP, just constantly autoing, continuously looking for a lot of these plays. And Lotus, I think there's a disconnect here between a lot of teams. You're going to see multiple members go around the wall, and they're going to see these 3 members on the left side stay in front of Monoxia the entire time. Stubby just taking free damage for literally no reason here. Going to end up costing his team a lot of that space, and obviously you see Crispy and Shibs is pushed completely out of the fight here. They can't really rejoin. We're going to see a possible reset to come through, but even though the low health members of Dorado Gaming Iota with Kalaji and MBK, they recognize they have the Pantheon over the top, they have all the rest of the members really able to come through, and with Kaisa being so low, she just can't play. Monoxia ends up actually even picking her up on the back end of that fight as well. So it's kind of what I was saying for this Lotus team. They just don't really have a way of stalling out this game. They have to press forward. They have to look for these kind of plays. So I like the initial play where they had the extra numbers, but they need to realize that they need to be satisfied with just picking up those 1 to 2 kills if they have to burn a lot of their resources and just back off. Don't lose all of their health and every other resource they have afterwards, because then Dorado Gaming Iota is able to kind of continuously push forward and end up securing those fight victories.
Yeah, I mean, and if anyone else was fed on Dorado Gaming, that fight probably does not nearly go as well. But the fact that Manaxia is the one who has all the gold on this team with a fully completed Triforce and Metamune, and I guess we're going for, I guess that's Gunblade? If I'm not mistaken, in the next item for Ezreal. I know it's technically meta, but I think in this it should be Gunblade.
In a weird way, it could also, well, no, it can't be Shadow Flame anymore.
No, I think Gunblade builds out of those items.
But yeah, so unfortunately, as you see, both Ori and Orianna have Proto Belt, by the way. Chovy.
Ori at least makes sense. I feel like Orianna makes no sense.
Chovy is the one that was a big Proto Belt guy, because apparently it allows you to be more active with a lot of these plays. You also can dodge it. You can dodge away from like Ori Charm, all that stuff with Proto Belt. That's why a lot of these random mages are building Proto Belt nowadays. So you can thank Chovy for that.
I will not. I feel like, oh my god, the damage from Manaxia here. Crispy is not having a fun time now.
Yes,
is in the wing here. Will get spotted in just a second by Kali G as they clear the area. No, will not go to the bush. Tower will go down. Just to check in, it is 3 dragons to 0 with the soul spawning in 2 minutes time. 7,000 gold in the favor of Dorado Gaming Iota, and it shows in the items. More nonsense builds, as I just spotted. Did you see what I'm going to talk about?
Well, the second the gold trap goes to down, yeah. Oh my, that's a Leandre's. Wow.
Yes, it is. That is something that Science have been doing, that because it just allows them to clear the waves a bit faster, it allows them to poke through the wave a bit more. It also is just a mask item that allows you to do stacking damage through the fights with the burn and the increased damage you get. Although I still don't know why, but it is.
Yeah, I like when my Scions do damage instead of take damage. I like that.
True, very true. I mean, your shield does AP damage.
That is
true. Why would you not want to use it?
I mean, obviously, you know, we do see the dragons 1 minute away here. Shibs is face checking.
Caught here. Getting a lot of damage taken from CJ Lopez, who does so much. Nature's Grasp and the Flash forced to disengage the fight. As it will be now Lotus trying to ball up together a minute on this dragon, as the entire vision seems to be swept on the bot side here for Lotus. And now on the side will use Spirit Rush. It is going to be Kali G finding Engage onto the other side. Here comes the Grand Skyfall into the back of the fight as MBK is going so low to Crispy. The first one to fall will be Stubby, as well as now CJ Lopez 1v2ing in the back. Manaxia will get a kill onto the Cho'Gath, or sorry, onto Shibs rather, but it will be a trade of the jungler for Dorado Gaming Iota. No Baron on the table now with that smite off the board.
Yeah, and they tried so hard to pick up that kill there on MBK. Oh, Crispy, you're on a ward. Oh, unlucky for Crispy in that situation. But yeah, unfortunately, they tried to use so many things onto NBK there. They used the initial Cyclone, I believe. Not Cyclone, sorry. They used the Shockwave from Orianna with Kaisa ulting in afterwards to really try to pick up that kill there, but unfortunately was not able to do so. And really, we saw the initial play there from Kali G. At this point, it's just kind of a wallet differential. Kali G just does not take any damage, even though his build's a little weird. And you've got, obviously, Pantheon over the top, sacrificing himself to make sure he's able to absorb so much damage to really kind of make these plays happen. And all of a sudden, you're looking at a possible Hextech Soul to come through here for Dorado Gaming Iota. No one is in the vicinity. Your jungler is split pushing top lane, trying to get a little bit of extra gold for his team. So this will end up being a very early Dragon Soul here. Less than 25 minutes for Dorado Gaming Iota.
Yeah, and you know what that means? That means that we will get a very early Elder Dragon as Rupture now trying to stop the Scion from going to the wave, and it will be a traded tower on the top side as well. I don't know how I feel about this early dragon. I don't know how I feel about trading it. I feel like this is one of those things where X-Tech Soul, I'm not sure the win rate stat currently, but it probably has to be in like the mid 80s%, I believe, with the Soul. The item is so busted, especially when you have the likes of Monaxia and NBK who can just constantly chuck spells through the wave. Deal so much damage. As Aftermoon, I don't know if you want to be here, forced to use the clone to make sure they don't get stunned by CJ Lopez. Here
well, actually, they're looking
onto the Pantheon. Will be the first one to get caught here as CJ Lopez going so low, silenced up by Stubby. Rupture will go wide. CJ Lopez trying in vain to keep himself alive, and it will not be enough. As NBK with no TP is forced to just walk down.
Oh, sucker ball!
Cali G trying to be in here now. The Orianna is here as well as a massive disruption onto 3, as it will be another massive knockup as well. Cali G taking so much damage. Cyclone now on to the side of Dorado Gaming as Maxi on the backside. Crispy going solo, going down, and it will be the case as Aftermoon as well trying now to get a kill onto MBK. Will not be enough. It is currently a 2 for 3 in favor of Dorado Gaming as the Master of Lotus are trying to run for the hills.
Loveless.
NBK will land the charm. Loveless not going to be able to land that soccer ball there as Shibs is the only one left standing and will be trying to walk through now, but it will not be enough. Destiny Smash will find the tree, and it will be an ace for the side of Dorado Gaming Iota.
Yeah, death timers are fairly close for Starry Moon and Crispy, so I don't think it's going to end up being the nail in the coffin, but I do think it is going to be a gigantic lead here from the side of running at Iotas. We're going to see this initial fight happen here. Going to see the initial play for this Wolf Camp, but I think Lotus says, hey, we actually have the numbers advantage here. We can actually look for this play. They're going to get the initial kill here on the CJ Lopez, even with Zion TPing in over the top from Kali G. But still, I think another situation where Dorado Gaming Iota says, hey, we have the numbers. Here's an amazing soccer ball from Aftermoon. That's why I said soccer ball during that fight, because it canceled Aftermoon getting over that wall, and Kali G able to have by so much space in this fight, and Monaxia is able to completely take over. Crispy obviously doing the best that he possibly can. They do end up picking up 1,000 gold shutdown, but going on to Stubby is probably not the best person you really want to go on. As we do see the live picture, we did see
I also didn't see that one live.
Yep, and then yep, exactly.
Yeah,
Loveless, unfortunately, putting on a display there with his mechanical prowess of flashing into a wall. But Baron obviously being started up here. Dorado Gaming Iota just buying so much space. Lotus trying to get in here, but I don't think they can.
The Baron. Aftermoon does use the jump to go in. Might have the clone to be able to go over the wall, but Kali G is tanking up the entirety of Lotus. Shockwave will land onto one. Will not be enough. Over the wall goes NBK. Finds the charm onto Strawberry Moon. That'll be the first one to fall. Shortly after will be Stubby alongside of Crispy. That will be 4 dead now for Lotus, and it will just be a rout in favor of Dorado Gaming Iota, and that looks to be potentially the capper on game number 1 as the Grand Skyfall comes in now to try and escort the wave with the supers and the gold lead and the Dragon Soul. Dorado Gaming Iota looks to close the curtain on this one.
Yeah, and honestly, this was a stomp from start to finish. I mean, obviously Lotus did a couple things here and there, tried to get their way back into it for the most part, but Dorado Gaming Iota showed up and handled business from the very beginning. We saw a dominant bot lane from Monaxia and Loveless from the very beginning. We saw several really good plays from mid-jungle duo trying to be very active early on. Ever since that river play where we saw the initial skirmish from Aftermoon and the Pantheon there in that river, we saw the initial flash away, and then the sync up from Dorado Gaming Iota. From that point on, ever since they got that initial 2,000 goldie from that play, they just took it and ran with it the rest of the way.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about it. The mid-jungle duo of NBK and CJ Lopez played so well together. But I also want to highlight Monaxia. They were able to get that double kill after that first fight, and they sort of just took it and ran with it, never really looked back. And that Ezreal single-handedly won a lot of those fights, especially thinking around that third dragon, that first Hex Tech, where if the Ezreal is not there, it is probably just a free dragon for the side of Lotus. But thanks to the Mystic shots and thanks to just being around, Monaxia really just carried that fight and absolutely made it impossible for the side of Lotus to even exist on the same lane and in the same river.
Yeah, and then unfortunately for Lotus, once they ended up falling behind, their composition didn't really allow them to just kind of sit back and do nothing. They didn't really have the long-range farming champions that kind of allow you to do that some games. But even when they had good opportunities to look for plays, it was one of those things where they kept trying to push for too much. They would get one kill, they'd use a lot of their resources, and felt like they could kind of continue to play. When you're that far behind and you're putting yourself in a situation where it's hard to get back in the game, you need to kind of get the game back in small increments. Overload sides, use multiple resources to get one or two kills, but then once you get those kills, it's a complete back off because all of a sudden you don't have any more resources left to kind of continue those fights. And really, to me, that's what ended up biting Lotus so much in that situation, was because they ended up not really allowing themselves to have good opportunities to make their way back into the fights, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think they also were not really the best at playing together. I think, maybe
Yeah.
Aftermoon and Strawberry Moon had one, maybe two at most combination plays. I didn't really see any Oriana ball combos onto more than one individual. Maybe that's credit to Dorado Gaming for being spread out and being aware of the moment. But I feel like, these fights were a little bit chaotic, and I'm not quite sure either team were prepared for a lot of them. It sort of seemed like they were always starting because someone was caught out in a place that they weren't expecting to be caught out and that the other team was not expecting them to be. Um, I'm thinking back to the multitude of times that Pantheon and Maokai found each other in the jungle, that ended up starting a full team fight. Um, but I think that Lotus just needs to settle down. They need to breathe going into game number two. I think they were solid. I think some of the stuff you saw from Crispy, especially as the game went on, was really promising. Despite the gold lead that was in favor of Dorado Gaming, Crispy was still looking really solid mechanically and seemed to have a good, cool head around them in the fight. Uh, but we will have to see before we get into game number two. Any final thoughts? Any sort of potential game plan switch ups you see before we head to break?
No, I mean, I think both these teams kind of had an idea of what they wanted to go for. I just think, obviously, Dorado giving Iota, since they executed that river fight a lot better than Lotus, they were able to kind of pick this one up. But like you said, I think the disconnect between Lotus could also be possibly caused. I mean, they are using a sub top laner, so it's a different dynamic. Obviously, anytime that happens, but unfortunately, they were, like you said, they were never really ever connected. And when you're playing a composition that kind of requires you to be connected, and you're not connected, then typically games like we just saw happen. So they definitely need to kind of either change how their draft's going to end up looking, or just basically say, hey, we have to do a much better job of actually working together as a team if we're going to kind of pick this up. And we saw that right in the lock-in tournament. Lotus won the entire thing. Now all of a sudden, regular season, they're 0-3 to start. That is a massive drop off.
Yeah. Hey, Lotus, take notes. You got Orion here giving you some coaching tips. We are going to take a short break while we get set up for game number two. So stick around. We'll be right back with game two of Dorado Gaming Iota versus Lotus. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We are here with the full draft for game number two. Uh, Sorry we didn't get this to you live. The teams got it going before we were ready to jump in, so we decided just to wait until it was done and show you all the final product. So here we are. You'll be able to see the champions, not where they were drafted, but where they are going to be for the game. Remember, it is top to bottom, moving in from the sides. So you can go over Dorado Gaming's draft on the left-hand side. It's going to be the Mundo on the top side with Jarvan jungle, Mel mid, Lucian, Pyke bot lane, matched up against Lotus's draft of Ornn top with Xinjiao jungle, Lissandra mid, Lucian, and Seraphine bot lane. That doesn't seem right. Lucian's on both sides. Anyway, we'll figure that out in just a moment. Um, we'll figure it out in just a moment, but we can talk about the matchups that we do know. And that is, I kind of want to start with the mid lanes, Orion. I
Mhm.
am not a connoisseur of Mel or Lissandra, as it looks like we
Yeah.
are going to be Yunara, Seraphine on that bot side. I'm not really sure how it goes. I just imagine Mel wins all matchups in my head.
I mean, not really. Not since the changes.
Uh,
She can not really deflect anything from Lissandra except for the Q, obviously. So the point and click CC still affects her, and she is an immobile mage. So if Lissandra's able to ever get on top of her with Zin's out in the area, she will struggle. She will have a hard time. Especially due to the blink Lissandra has, she can blink through Mel's root that she has on her E ability, so that obviously applies that. But Mel is one of those champions that is specifically picked in this game because there's an Ornn and a Seraphine, two very long range telegraphed ultimates that have very large sound cues that can very easily be deflected back into their teams and completely wipe them. If that happens, actually, sorry, the Ornn wasn't the case. It is a Mundo. My apologies. Well, no, actually, no, that is right. Yeah, sorry.
no,
The
we just
team,
swapped sides.
yeah, the team swapped on me, and I was like, what? What happened? But yeah, so obviously Mel's really good into those champions. Curious to see how this Lucian Pyke goes. Pyke is one of those champions that I feel is probably one of the best champions in the game for the first 10 to 15 minutes. And then after that, slowly becomes one of the worst very quickly, considering how low HP he has, and he relies on obviously a lot of things have to happen well for him. So gonna have to get very early game leads this go around, which we saw the bot lane of Dorado Gaming Iota have a lot of success in that first game. So maybe running off of a little bit of a high, saying, "Hey, we played really good first game. Let's continue that momentum going forward. Pick a little bit more of aggressive bot lane and see if we can really dominate the bot lane of Lotus."
Yeah, I imagine the pace of this game is going to be fairly similar to the one that we had last one. And if that's the case, Pyke will be very, very, very good at roaming around and playing um, around their jungler. I will say, Loveless of the two supports was the one that stayed in lane more. So to see
Mm.
Shibs on the laning champion and Loveless on the one that wants to go roaming about is going to be interesting to see how it goes. Um, I will say that this Jarvan is going to be really, really tough to play this game. It is very difficult. Yes, you are able to cage the Seraphine pretty easily, but the rest of the champions are going to be difficult to lock down, to say the least. You got Yunara being able to dash over the wall, Lissandra being able to ult herself or dash over. Xin Zhao, if you ult him in the cage, he's like, okay, that's a-okay with me. I'll just make sure I don't take any damage from outside of my little ring. And then also, you won't be able to kill me because I'll be out healing you with my build that I'm gonna go. I'm actually curious to see what Aftermoon goes this game. If it's gonna be the traditional 80, Sundered Sky into Cleaver, or if it's gonna be Titanic into Dusk and Dawn.
Yeah, well,
Um,
I mean, if he watched his well, essentially quote unquote big brother Lotus teams during the NACL promotional games, Sternfire almost every game he played since out was going that Titanic and Dusk and Dawn into Riftmaker, and he was healing for anywhere between 200 to 250 health every three auto attacks, which is
yeah,
ridiculous. Amounts of
sounds
healing.
alongside
Yeah,
your
yeah.
Seraphine.
Exactly. So a champion that can be just an incredible dueling champion given those circumstances, obviously will have a lot of access, to dealing with champions like Mundo, Jarvan that have to be on top of him. He will have a lot of uptime in a lot of these fights. My biggest thing though is anytime a champion like Mel exists into the game, when you have like a Seraphine and a Ornn, they're not really allowed to press their ult buttons as long as Mel's W is off of on cooldown, right, or available to be used. because all of a sudden it's going to get reflected right back into your team, and you're going to cause more harm than you are like actually doing good. So you have to be very careful with their ultimate usages. But it's like it's two champions that incredibly rely upon actually having those abilities to be casted. So going to be very awkward type of game to play if you are Lotus for these two guys. You have to be very diligent with the way that they actually use their abilities and not just willingly using it whenever she's around.
I will say, there is some pretty solid engage with Aftermoon and Strawberry Moon
Mhm.
being able to go forward. I think if your Xin Zhao is able to jump on the Jarvan or the Pike, it's sort of really easy to play, as well as being able to use the Glacial Tomb to start these engagements. It's just some guaranteed lockdown CC as well as a massive amount of damage. I think the Lissandra champion is massively slept on right now. I think going Malignance on her, you're able to get so many casts of your ulti up. She is a champion that you can also use Protobelt on um, to get that extra. Having done it myself, I understand. I see the vision. But Protobelt, Glacial Tube is something that people are not really prepared for a lot of the time. Um, but yeah, I mean, you talked about it before. I mean, MBK can't really do much if she's just getting locked down um, permanently. But you know, we can always talk about theory for these champs and these builds, but you never really know what's going to happen until you actually get into game. One errant pike hook could flip the game in someone's favor, as well as just a random Seraphine E landing that maybe someone wasn't expecting. Um, I don't think I've seen Yunara Seraphine, so I am curious to see if the Yunara W interaction with Seraphine E actually catches anyone off guard, um, because that route into slow into stun is is very dangerous, to say the least.
Yeah, it's
Um,
definitely I would say a not normal pairing for sure, but I am a little curious as to what the preference was, right? Because obviously we see Karma banned, we know Milia was banned obviously from Fearless Draft. Lulu is up and available, which is Yunara's best pairing. So I'm kind of curious to see why Shibs opted into going for a champion like this. It's a little awkward with not actually knowing how the draft picks actually went in order, because if the Seraphine was picked after the Mel, I would be very surprised because, a champion like Lulu would be fantastic in this situation, especially with how front to back Lotus seems to like to play. But
I gotta guess that it
unfortunately,
was Seraphine first pick, or
yeah, that's what I would hope.
yeah,
Especially kind of
but
suiting how the drafts ended up going. But yeah, it's gonna be pretty close game. I would say. I think it's gonna go back, like you said, fairly hectic early on in the game, and both these teams looking to play very aggressively.
it was Seraphine first pick. I can confirm.
Gotcha.
All right, but with that said, I'm gonna inform you guys about something that I tried to say before, but I didn't quite have the words to say it. I want to reintroduce you guys to our Rage Bait feature. Do you guys want to piss your friends off live on stream? Are you interested in baiting a player or even a coach? Through pure ingenuity, we here at CCS have made that possible. For just 500k channel points, you can get your message shown live on screen during our games, LCS style, just like what you saw last game with our frick message. Want to bait even more people? CCS subscribers get one free Rage Bait per month. For now, there's only one Rage Bait per game, so get in there quick as it's first come, first serve. No carryover month to month either. This isn't your corporate PTO program. Use it or lose it. DM Flayer redacted for questions and requests, and again, make sure to link your Twitch and Discord accounts to gain access to our subs only Discord channel. With that said, I believe hopefully the game is ready, unless I mistimed that. But yeah, I mean, I'm super excited. We're about to get into this one. It's got to be Dorado Gaming Iota versus Lotus in Game 2 of Week 2 CCS Apollo. We are in the game.
Yeah, and I think the
Welcome
biggest
to
thing that we kind
Summoner's
of talked
Rift.
about, obviously a lot for the most part, was the early aggression of this bottom side. And you kind of see it with the rune
Minions
choices, right?
have
You've got
spawned.
Ignite to come through from Loveless with the Hail of Blades, going to be very aggressively looking for those trades. Once again, very actively, trying to place those wards. And, it's a good job by Crispy and by Shibs to get down here very early. At some point, I would like for Loveless to actually sweep out this vision. Obviously, them not knowing that how far they open that third bush is great, but if you're able to eliminate any possible idea of like where they're able to play this lane, because Crispy and Shibs obviously know for a fact that they're in this third bush, so they're able to kind of walk up this lane a little bit and kind of be able to play this situation. I would like to see at some point Ruffles press his super to clear it out.
I don't know if I actually saw the
Yeah.
Both supports going wide. I don't know if Outlaw saw that MBK placed a ward on the Raptors. I'm not quite sure, as I've been seeing it happening. There we go. I've been seeing mid laners like get really good at hugging the wall around mid to not get spotted by tower.
Mm.
I'm not sure if NBK did that this game. I think they did. They did spot the Xin Zhao starting the Raptors, but I don't know if they know necessarily that Aftermoon invaded the bot side.
It's a fantastic adaptation, exactly what we talked about last game. The new adaptation for these bot lanes is not to play for the initial spotting of the jungler. It is just it's trying to go for those plays. So Xin Zhao is actually gonna try to get he's gonna get the blue buff already. Currently doing that grab is the MBK taking a lot of damage here from Cyber Moon, like we talked about. But yeah, he's gonna end up getting this Gromp as well. So Aftermoon gonna be set up for success in this one. This does give CJ Lopez time to maybe come down here as well. Oh, actually already a kill.
Going down. Loveless as well gonna be very shortly to follow. Flash forward from Crispy will be able to get that kill. Flash still available for the Lucian. Will not be enough though as Manaxia
Lopez
trying to walk this one out here. CJ Lopez is here. No flashes available on either players for Lotus. But with no HP on the AD carry, that becomes a little bit too risky. And now you got to question, what does CJ Lopez do now?
Yeah,
they don't have push. They don't have push in mid or bot. They don't have push in top. They don't have any knowledge of what camps were actually available for the Xin Zhao or where the Lotus jungler is going.
Yeah, I mean honestly, this driver in the fourth is kind of homeless. It's one of the things where as we're having a bit of a flashbang, but yeah, here's the replay happening as we come in through the bot lane. Obviously having to play this Aftermoon was able to take away the blue buff and that Gromp and able to kind of just take the aggression down to the bot side. I mean, obviously well played by Banaxia to kind of get that initial kill, right from the initial 2v2. But ultimately, it is going to end up being just a play that ends up resulting in, just an overall 1-for-1 trade. But the biggest difference, though, is the fact that Driving the Fourth is a little bit homeless. He does currently have no camps whatsoever up and available for the taking. He's going to look to see if he can actually take the respawn timer of the Raptors. Aftermoon doing a bit of reading here. He's actually pathing down here as well. And honestly, like, I'm a little surprised. Aftermoon hasn't actually taken that many camps. Considering he actually took... Oh, actually, going to send this one away.
Yeah, we'll get a smite for the Xin Zhao, and it's going to be a knockup. CJ Lopez going to go down alongside Aftermoon, but Chips is here now. No flash now on NBK after they're forced to use it. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's worth.
Yeah, honestly,
you lose the Raptor, you lose your life.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, so usually when you take camps as the jungler, when you're trying to steal them away, you always want to be making sure you're up the tempo pace, as we do see a hook trying to go for Loveless.
Yeah, we'll be able to land it on to Crispy, going very low here, is actually going to be able to just get this kill onto Crispy one more time. Bone plating going to keep Shibs alive, but very well played from Loveless, and that's not a buy I was expecting Manaxia to have.
Yeah, it was going to Essence Reaper, which is definitely more the aggressive of the items that Lucian could go for. Technically, he could go for a Collector if he wanted to go super crazy, but here's the hook coming through. This is immediately after the hook landing from Loveless. There's just, once that hook lands, Crispy not having flash, there's not really much that he's able to do there, but like I was saying, even with the 2 camps taken from CJ Lopez, the gold is even because Aftermoon didn't do a lot of taking his own camps in the process. He tried to do a lot of defending of his camps. I think CJ Lopez did a good job trying to make his way back into this game and basically not just saying, oh, like, I'm down camps, what can I do? Like, having a pity party, basically. He did a really good job trying to make sure he could get back into this game. So credit to him, but also, I mean, you also have to be a little bit critical of Aftermoon, where he actually didn't end up expanding upon his lead and really taking advantage of taking those early 2 camps.
More importantly, the way jungle works, CJ Lopez took his entire jungle in essence, and so when he was able to hit his camps again, they were the respawn versions versus Aftermoon only being able to hit level 1 jungle camp. So if you look at the junglers right now, I guarantee you CJ Lopez is much closer to level 6.
Here we go, 3-3.
Here we go, Loveless is going in. No flash available. Will land the hook onto Xin Zhao. Aftermoon forced to go in. A very nice flag and drag onto 2. It will be support going down, but traded for the jungler. CJ Lopez now trying to walk down Crispy, trying to get as much damage as possible. Will not be enough as the jungler goes down. Manaxia with that Sheen, not going to have enough damage over the top as Crispy now trying to walk this one down. It might not be enough. Shibs trying to do just that extra bit of damage. So low, Manaxia will be able to walk this one out. And you gotta wonder. I feel like they should never be losing that. And I'm not trying to put it on the Sheen purchase, but I feel like if you have a Caulfield's Warhammer, you don't lose that. You never lose
Yeah,
that.
yeah, possibly. Oh, ships.
Chibs does not have flash. We'll use the heal and try and walk this one out, and I just think that's a waste of a summoner.
Yeah, hook landing there by Loveless to get the initial kill, but yeah, hopefully we're gonna get a replay of that bot lane fight just to see how it exactly went down. I know, so yeah, Loveless is gonna dash forward very aggressively, not landing on anybody there, and then the hook actually going on to Aftermoon, so a lot of initial burst damage going through onto, obviously, the Aftermoon there, but you're gonna see CJ Lopez not only taking up a lot of minions there as this play is happening, but actively kiting away from Monoxia, not able to kind of continuously able to make those plays. And unfortunately, you know, they weren't quite able to pick up the back end kill there on Monoxia. But still actively looking to continuously make these plays. We saw the hover around mid lane, but sometimes it can be hard to gank a champion like Mel. Obviously, Lissandra does have access to her Glacial Tomb if she really wanted to, you know, keep Mel in place and try to prevent her from moving. But still, it can still be kind of hard to play at certain times. But both these teams, you know, as we get a little bit closer to these mid-game, Pyke obviously trying to get active on the map as well. And this is kind of where we saw last game where we're saying Shibs did a good job trying to get active on the map, making a lot of these plays where Loveless was typically kind of stuck in lane, typically playing for his AD carry on that Milio. So curious to see how these two players are going to adapt to the champions that they're currently playing in this one. As we do see, like, Pyke is that champion that does kind of have to make things happen. He will get outscaled. He will become a lot less useful in comparison to the ships.
He's wasting so much time. CJ Lopez has been walking around not hitting anything for like the last 40 seconds as Strawberry Moon trying to get some wave clear back. And also showed on that bot pixel, and so that's going to give Aftermoon the free sign to go and take these grabs on the top side. CJ Lopez has camps to hit, does not know where the Xin Zhao is anymore, did spot him on the Raptors earlier, but doesn't know anymore where they've gone. And, you know, I'm really curious to see which of these junglers actually comes out on top, because both of them, with respect, have been wasting a lot of time sort of doing some nonsense. Yes, Aftermoon went for that play on the bot side, but now CJ Lopez is forced to start this dragon, because if they don't, they're going to fall further behind in tempo. And, I mean, oh my goodness, both mid laners are off the map. This gives me anxiety. I'm not gonna
Yeah, it is a little risky, but obviously with bot lane being pushed out and having the pressure that Monoxia and Loveless are able to have, it is a little bit easier to kind of be able to roam over. Plus, they did just get the gigantic signal that Void Grubs was taken by Aftermoon, so they know that he was up towards the topper side of the map. So taking the first drag out of the game is successful here for Dorado Gaming Iota. But yeah, like you were saying, obviously, you know, a big thing for junglers is constantly having as efficient and uptime as you possibly can. Typically, it usually boils down to whichever jungler is able to be the most efficient with their time is oftentimes going to be the ones that's just the most successful. That's just kind of how it is in today's League of Legends. As you know, obviously, we haven't talked a lot about top lane, but you can kind of see why with who they're on their screen. It is a Ornn and a Mundo. These guys are pretty much irrelevant until about 20 minutes. When they actually kind of show up to these team fights to kind of make things happen. So really, it's gonna, for both of these teams, it's really going to come down to a lot of how these team fights are going to end up playing out, and really with how even the game is. Unless this Lucian is able to really kind of just take over a lot of these team fights, aggressively dashing forward with this Essence Reaver, making a lot of the plays with the Pyke. I think the at least in my opinion, the front to back composition of Lotus is definitely a little bit easier to execute at the end of the day, but you always have that champion like Loveless that can make a lot of plays happen, as he is making a play here.
Level 6, does have the ulti available, gonna use the Bella's Breath to be able to immune that hook. Very nicely well played from Stubby. I'm looking at the items, and I hope Kali G does not get baited into going Warmogs. A lot of Mundos will do this. They will... There's a streamer, Alois, who plays a lot of Mundo, and he always preaches Warmogs into Heartsteel. But the reason he does that is because the lanes he plays are often very difficult. And when you're against Mundo, or when you're against Ornn, like, the lane is not hard. The lane is not difficult for you, and if you delay stacking your Heartsteel by so much gold, you're just leaving stats on the table. So I really hope this is just a straight up Heartsteel. But anyway, yeah, the top lane is what it is. There's not really much going on. Loveless showing up there is probably the most exciting thing that's going to happen in the next 5 minutes. as we are back on the bot side. Dragon spawning in 3 minutes. Much slower pace this game from last. Not nearly as many kills, although there are still 9 in 11 minutes as we look to see as CJ Lopez potentially angling for a play on mid. Not really much danger though, considering Strawberry Moon has ulti, flash, and claw available. I'm really curious to see which jungler will really make the first massive impact of the game. Trading neutral objectives is good and all, but I mean, nothing really going on for the time being.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing right now for Lotus is they are fairly. It's only a 1k Goldie, but if you look at the item differentials here, the Lissandra is the only one that actually has Malignance purchased in terms of full item completion. You've got Essence Reaver, Ludens Echo, Sundered Sky available for all these guys. So really, I mean, just making sure that they're as strong as they possibly be currently. So if Lotus were to opt into a fight, even though it's less than a 1000k gold lead, they would still end up very likely losing it simply because of the item components that are actually completed. So I think maybe, at least hopefully for both these teams, or I guess for Lotus's sake, they're saying, hey, we need to kind of slow the game down a little bit, make sure we actually get our items completed, which is right now. They've all based, they've all gotten all of their items, so right now would be a good opportunity for Lotus to kind of continue looking for these plays and getting active on the map. We obviously, Dragon is a minute and 30 from spawning. That's going to be the next major area that the teams will kind of gravitate towards if they are going to look to fight for a play. You currently see, obviously, a vision line already established from the side of Dorado Gaming Iota down in that bottom river. We see 2 wards kind of over the wall on that red side, and we do see, obviously, the ward and the tri-bush as well. So Dorado Gaming Iota has kind of already done a pretty good job of kind of setting themselves up for a possible dragon take. There's really no vision already placed. And, oh, wow, kill on the top side.
Yeah, fight on the bot side though as well, as Crispy might be getting hooked here. Aftermoon is on the top side, as fighting in the bot side is for sure going on. Ulti pop by Crispy, as well as the culling from Manaxia. Good blocking from Shibs. Keep their AD carry healthy. Flash hook from Loveless will be able to land the death from below. Very nice kill, and the gold shared to their AD carry as well. Manaxia getting the 300 gold alongside Loveless. That's a great play from the Dorado Gaming support there. And another kill mid. Oh my goodness, so much damage going on across the map. This is another game. Manaxia is 3-0-2 as Shibs now. No flash, no heal. Should just be going down. Flagging drag gonna go wide, but the cage will be enough to finish the job.
Aftermoon's behind. As well as Sandra.
Aftermoon is here, does have the completed Titanic. Should be able to knock down Manaxia if they get in range. CJ Lopez should have the Flagging Drag available in just a second. But Manaxia gets too close to Strawberry Moon. Gonna flash root. The Lucian will get the kill. First one of this fight is Loveless, and CJ Lopez gonna be able to walk this one out. Aftermoon does have flash. If they want to try and chase, the wind becomes lightning. No, will not do so. Dragon is now live.
Whew. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, in a weird way, a lot of the fights that happened were, like, obviously very early in terms of, like, really setting up for this dragon. So, hopefully, a lot of these replays are able to kind of go through while this dragon is currently being contested. But great play by Stumpy. Had a lot of chain CC here. Aftermoon able to have just enough damage to kill the Mundo before getting spiked. But, yeah, I mean, honestly, the back to life, yeah, these fights are still kind of going back and forth. Steve Lopez looking for a way in.
We'll just be spited away by Aftermoon as Hook gonna land onto Crispy. Not really a lot of damage there going out, but CJ Lopez was forced to flash away from the Xin Zhao, who did jump on them. Shibs, you don't have flash. You cannot be here right now. Manaxia will find the Seraphine, but Crispy is just free hitting, going so low as Loveless. Down goes the Dorado Gaming support. Crispy will be able to find the first kill of this engagement. Manaxia as well, forced to ult and walk away, but Aftermoon, again, no flash available, but we'll be able to find the Dorado Gaming AD carry in just a moment. Wind does not become lightning, as Aftermoon trying very hard, and we'll be able to get that kill onto Dorado Gaming Iota's AD carry. And Strawberry Moon is here as well. Does have the Glacial Tomb available. Not gonna use it.
Honestly, I mean, cocky movement there from Shibs. I felt like if the hook was going to land there, he was going to get absolutely blasted there. But sidestepping out of the way, and really a Dorado Gaming Iota posturing just a little bit too aggressively forward. And, you know, this is Crispy with a Kraken Slayer already completed in the back pocket, able to kind of take up these fights very aggressively and able to kind of outright win that one. But this is going to be that dragon we were talking about here, getting started up here.
CJ Lopez is so low.
Yeah, this is just a continuation of the fight, right? He wasn't quite able to reset in time from the bot lane excursion that was kind of happening, and so unfortunately just not really quite able to enter, not willing to risk it. And then here's going to be like the display afterwards. Shiv's going to path down kind of towards the bottom side, and like I said, he's going to have a very good sidestep here into a double root with the stun, like you mentioned with Yunara's W. So Monoxia not quite able to have as much uptime as he would have liked to. Good calling to make sure to prevent any further pushing forward from the rest of the members, but Aftermoon has a lot of movement speed, plus with Shivs in the back pocket, able to empower this Xin Zhao, and obviously, even though the W ended up missing, it ended up not even mattering.
MBK so low already. We'll get the kill onto Seraphine as the root as well lands onto Strawberry Moon. No stasis available as the flag and drag will land. Crispy now trying to walk down CJ Lopez. Flash from the Jarvan as Herald now popped by Aftermoon. I don't think he meant to do that. Anyway, will be the Herald for Lotus as... What? We're combat heralding down to bot? Okay, here we go. After we're gonna use the Herald down to the bot side, we'll try and find Monaxia. We'll try and just use this one probably to walk. The tower is so low. Gonna pop out. We'll be able to find the wind becomes lightning onto the AD carries. Flag and drag now on to the Xin Zhao death from below. Loveless getting that kill onto Aftermoon, who has been on a roller coaster ride in the last 20 seconds.
I think that is the definition of ambitious. Trying to aggressively use the Rift Herald all the way down when you know that there were 3 members in the area for Aftermoon there. So maybe thinking he's a little bit too invincible in that situation. Yeah, kind of curious to see how that fight ended up actually starting out here. Yeah, so you're going to see Shivs is the one actually initially kind of caught out here with the E lineage from Mel. And then, like I said, you get the reflection from Mel's W there back to Shivs. So, unfortunately for him, just not quite able to have that play button. That's kind of what I was saying. Like, they have to be cognizant of that ability, obviously up and available for him. But yeah, here's gonna be Aftermoon. Yeah, like you said, gonna pop the Rift Herald, and I thought for a second I was like, okay, they get the kill. They're gonna use the Rift Herald to get mid. They're gonna get mid tower, but all of a sudden, Aftermoon says, no, you know what? I'm gonna make a trip down to the bot lane here. And unfortunately, he's gonna dash in into 3 people, and even with his ultimate there, not quite able to make that play, but aggressively fighting CJ Lopez here.
Yeah, should be able to walk this one out. Gets the red secured. As it looks like, yeah, Aftermoon is going to go for that Titanic into Dusk Adonis. Stubby's just going to walk through the top tower.
Yeah, and you did, and obviously, and you did mention obviously the fact that you would have preferred the Heartsteel over the Warmogs, but Cali G does not agree with you in this game. It's going to be about a 20-minute Heartsteel to really come through for him. So, like you were saying, really kind of delaying those stacks. So. But obviously, it felt like we just talked about Dragon spawning, and all of a sudden it's about to spawn again in 50 seconds, as you see both teams kind of possibly posturing for that position. Aftermoon obviously clearing his camps back down so he can kind of be in that area. And we talked about, obviously, Xin Zhao builds beforehand. It is going to be that Dusk and Dawn second to come through. Very powerful on this champion currently. It does allow him to obviously have a lot of healing. It gets extra the on hits to come through, which Xin Zhao really likes to see. So it really kind of helps him to have that dueling prowess, as we do see. Just gonna quite quickly check. Pretty much everybody except CJ Lopez has access to their flash ability.
Flag and drag from CJ Lopez. Gonna use a Cataclysm on to the Xin Zhao. The Encore will go back in Ship's face, but it will be the Jarvan going down first as Lissandra's now here. Will land the Glacial Prison onto the Lucian. Goes down to Call of the Forge God. Gonna land onto Loveless. 2 dead so far for Dorado Gaming, and it will just be a quick trade of, not even a trade of kills, a quick double kill for the side of Lotus, but they're trying to go forward still. Stubby taking so much damage, not gonna be able to Searing Charge away. The tower is ramped. Crispy gonna take about half HP from that tower shot, as NBK as well trying to find enough damage. Strawberry Moon goes down. It's gonna be a 3-for-1 so far in favor of Lotus. But the health bars are blinking red for the blue side here, as Cali G gonna be able to use this Warmog potentially to heal up before this dragon, but it is already started up now. No jungler for Dorado Gaming. Cali G now trying to walk in. TP in from NBK, 3,000 HP. Is the dragon as Crispy is firing. It will go the way of Aftermoon, but now Lotus trying to walk this one out. There is a lot of stuff for Dorado Gaming to do on the map, and it's gonna be a 3-for-1 and a dragon. And if you're Lotus, I think you're more than happy with that.
Oh, absolutely. We kind of talked about, obviously, with these fights, that even though there's champions like Seraphine and Lauren that have to worry about Mel's reflections, but you can kind of see it here. Lissandra does not have to worry about that ability. She's going to teleport in, flash. Oh, so I don't even have to flash on top of an oxygen to absolutely destroy him with that Malignus over the top. We're going to see Crispy, obviously, aggressively posturing forward, having a lot of confidence and faith. As we do see Stubby gonna position a little bit aggressively here, I would say, under the tower with no minions, getting hooked that way. We're gonna use a nice little buffer here from his brittle, or sorry, from his Bella's breath to negate that. We're gonna see Lysandra blink right in front of a pike hook.
Oh, that's how that happened.
To save Stubby from initially getting hooked away. So unfortunately for Strawberry, there a little bit misopportune timing, one would say, but ultimately it does end up resulting in the fact that they are able to kind of pick up those kills. So, you know, Lotus is in a very powerful position, does still not quite have the gold lead. It's about a 1,000 gold lead to Dorado Gaming Iota, but at 21 minutes, 1,000 gold lead is just a couple of components, which doesn't really actually mean anything. So, much closer of a game as Kali G is getting potentially picked off on the sideline.
Yeah, he's getting gone on. Going to be using the Ghost and the Ulti to try and walk this one out. About down to 40% HP. Does have the W to get themselves some more healing. But this Mundo is so tanky. Gets so much HP effectively in this fight. But Aftermoon as well. This build is monstrous on the Xin Zhao. And a kill for Strawberry Moon means that the tower as well on the bot side goes down. Stubby, this tower is too healthy on the top side to really be threatened. And I don't really know what we're doing leaving Manaxia and mid by themselves.
Yeah, I think it's going to be hard to play there on that side, but like you were saying, yeah, here comes the ultimate coming down from Lysandra, and I think obviously Kali G trying his best to walk out, but Xin Zhao is such a sticky champion. It's really hard to, yeah, exactly. It's hard to,
196.
I know. It's so hard to like get away from this type of champion with all the dashes he has, and when becomes lightning, able to have that extra forward dash. And you know, it's like obviously, you know, for Kali G, maybe just thinking, hey, I'm a Mundo, I can survive this situation no matter what, but they ended up getting caught out and ended up losing that tier 1 tower and the boss as a process. But Lotus trying to use their power to get this bot side.
Yeah, Lucian will go down. Dash gets interrupted, forced to flash and barrier away. Aftermoon trying to hunt this one down, does have the mark still onto Manaxia. Going very close, flash forward from the Xin Zhao. Will be enough. CJ Lopez will now use the Cataclysm to keep Xin Zhao, but look at the healing so much. I don't think it'll be enough in the end.
Well,
very close to surviving there, but it will not be enough. A trade of kills, 80 carry for jungler. And honestly, you take that, I think, if you're Lotus. Unfortunately, the flash was used for Aftermoon, but flash and barrier both off the map for Manaxia means that this tower is sure to fall in just a moment. Subby is here.
Oh, okay.
Strawberry Moon got to use the Glacial Prism forward onto NBK, who just did not see it coming. Loveless going to go down as well, and CJ Lopez shortly thereafter. Kali G trying to walk this one out. So tanky is the Mundo, but the damage from Lotus and the engage and the snap possibility is just too much for Dorado Gaming to pay attention to right now.
Yeah, Strawberry Moon having so much impact on the Lysandra in this game, just completely taking over all of these fights that are happening. This is going to be the initial fight happening here after Moon. Just, like I said, just being able to just stick so well onto these champions. And you're going to see just how long this guy actually ends up surviving underneath this tower. I thought for a second if he was going to be able to, like, get out of this Cataclysm, that there was maybe, like, this last little bit, if he had, like, an auto-cancel there, he'd be able to get his passive off. It'd have been really, really close. But Ornn able to get the push in the side, and then able to kind of roam down onto NBK here. And this is going to be Strawberry just immediately getting on top of that melt, just instantly blasting her over the top. And the rest of Dorado Gaming Iota just has to run for the hills as the Jarvan the fourth and the Mundo just have no damage left in the tank. And, you know, the carries are obviously dead. It is a 2-threat composition here for the side of Dorado Gaming Iota. So if this Lucian or this Mel are never in the fights, or they're the ones that are getting taken out early, then Dorado Gaming Iota's composition is going to fall apart rather quickly.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much CC and so much engaged potential from Lotus that you really don't know where it's going to come from if you are Dorado Gaming. You kind of are super reliant on NBK doing a lot of damage before the fight even begins. But with Stubby in the front, and with Aftermoon, hold on, Seer Charge going to land a stun onto NBK. Flash available for the Dorado mid laner, should they choose to use it. Crispy going to use the ulti, but Jarvan engaging so far away for the rest of their team. Call of Forge coming in, but will be blocked by NBK. CJ Lopez forced to flash away as Strawberry Moon will use the ulti onto the jungler. Gets a double kill now for their trouble as Aftermoon has found Loveless in the jungle. Gets the knock-up onto the Pike. Not going to be able to find any more for the time being. Is going to chase away Manaxia. As on the backside, I believe Kali G is trying to be a big distraction. Loveless. Mission impossible, trying to walk away from this one as Aftermoon becomes lightning, just going wide. But it will be a 2-for-1 in favor of Lotus.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, at this point, Lotus feels so confident taking a lot of these fights because Strawberry Moon having so much impact with their Glacial Tomb, just getting in there, landing a massive amounts of CC onto one of the priority targets. And like I said, they are playing a 2-threat composition, so I mean, obviously Mundo was able to get in the back line, caused a little bit of disruption, was able to take out Shivs in that process, but all of a sudden, 3 dragons to 1 here for Lotus being on sole point. As I do believe we are, but yeah, we are going to get a replay here. This is going to be the beginning of that fight. And we do see Mundo obviously up in that top lane. It's going to end up TPing down here, but so will Strawberry Moon as well, as we see both teams kind of posturing for that initial dragon. Actually, no, it's just going to be a walk down from Strawberry Moon, not even a TP, as they're going to try to get into the back line here. And really, it's hard for NBK and Monoxy to really kind of play all these team fights out because Zhao is so tanky. He has so much healing. Great block, obviously, on the initial, but the ultimate, the AoE from the ultimate there from Strawberry Moon, able to have so much power in these team fights. And like we said, Kali obviously was able to get that backline kill onto Shivs, but really, I mean, that doesn't really do much. The second Seraphine uses her Empower W and her Encore ability, she doesn't really care if she dies, to be completely honest. Obviously, it's the Lissandra, it's the Yunara, it's the Xin Zhao, the ones that you really kind of have to worry about. And, you kind of mentioned it earlier in this game, especially during the draft phase, this Jarvan the Fourth is going to have kind of a hard time in this game. We've kind of seen it. CJ Lopez has been kind of invisible this game. Hasn't really done much, hasn't really been able to have huge impacts with the Cataclysm really to kind of come through. And I think it's really because the impact that Aftermoon and Strawberry Moon have been able to have in this game.
Yeah, I think we're also losing a bit to shop, I think, on the Dorado Gaming side. I don't normally like to call these things out, but I don't know if Loveless really needs to be investing into a Youmu's this game. I think if you get a Serpent's Fang on Pike, you're feeling a lot better than if you get a little bit of movement speed, as well as there's not a single person on this Dorado Gaming side who has any heal cut to be seen. Besides the Ignite, there is absolutely nothing stopping the Seraphine and Xin Zhao from healing their entire team back to full after you're engaged. And until that happens, I think Dorado Gaming are just going to continue to lose fights, even before Ocean Soul gets picked up potentially by Lotus in 2 minutes time. But actually, trying their hardest, working towards that LDR. My brain is not working. That Lord Dominic's Regard, as I remember the name now. I'm not sure if that's even going to be enough. The Xin Zhao and this Lissandra are just so impactful in these fights. As Monaxi now going to get found by Aftermoon. Hook gonna land as well. It's not going to be enough though. Monaxi does have the mark still on their face. Loveless going to get charmed up now by the Encore. And CJ Lopez will fall shortly after. Going to get the GA popped. An unfortunate timing for this to happen. I mean, Baron is on the map, and that should be the next play now for Lotus. Is double kill for Yunara. And this game is going from bad to worse. The gold lead now slipping down to 3,000. And Lotus starting up the Baron.
Yeah, and we talked about the fact that obviously with the Mel being in the game, she has obviously a really easy time reflecting the Encore and kind of having an ability. But if she's not around, then Seraphine has nothing to worry about. So a fantastic Encore letting on into the double root there. As we do see in the live picture, obviously Lotus was able to secure the Baron buff at this occasion. So, sets them up for a very strong position to really be able to push these waves as deep as they can into their base, and then navigate their way back to the dragon. Usually, the way I prefer to see is I really like to see when teams take their waves and just push them as far into the base as they possibly can, and then work their way back into their own area, sweep out the vision, make sure nothing's actually in play for a possible TP flank or anything that could possibly happen. Because at this point, for Dorado Gaming Iota, they're going to have to get creative. They're going to have to find ways to look for picks or find random things that could possibly happen, because a straight up front to back team fight will be losing into Lotus's composition. So, because you have a Pike support, obviously, the front line is just better here for Lotus. So, gotta have to find ways to get to really kind of cause a lot of havoc.
Oh my goodness, the damage from Crispy. Holy moly. That is a lot of damage, as the Pike passive will heal them up a lot. CJ Lopez is on a flank, but like I said before, without the heal cut, without the shield cut, I don't honestly know what Dorado Gaming can do unless Lotus decide to massively split up, which looks to be the case for the time being. CJ Lopez going to get found out now by Strawberry Moon. Going to be forced to flag and drag, start the fight. Cataclysm onto 2, as Aftermoon going to be jumping in onto the whole team of Dorado Gaming. Aftermoon taking up so much damage. Monaxia, what can you do versus the Crescent Guard? But no, Jarvan going to go down first. Call of the Forge God will land onto 1. NBK forced to flash away as well. CJ Lopez down. Monaxia down. It will be the Mel down as well shortly after. Loveless trying to find a way to continue this game, but it will just be potentially the end here as the entirety of Lotus now bearing down on the base of Dorado Gaming. First tower will fall as the inhib tower now will be the next targeted by this Lotus squad. And it will fall shortly after. Lotus and Cali G, can they pull off the defense? I'm not quite sure, but this Mundo is incredibly tanky. Loveless gonna bone skewer into a Void Grub, Searing Charge onto the tower, and it will be the first one going down. The second one shortly to follow. Both towers and the game 2 gonna be falling for Dorado Gaming. Lotus gonna tie this one up at 1-1.
Yeah, and we talked about obviously the fact that Lotus composition was really starting to come online in the front to back fights, but really honestly for me in that last fight, I thought Afterman did such an incredible job with that Crescent guard, diving through the back line, causing so much disruption that even though his back line was being jumped on by the Cataclysm, which are in the fourth, he's able to buy so much space, able to kind of have a lot of fights. And I don't know if anyone was paying attention like I was during that fight, but since I was healing for I think 400. Every other auto attack kind of come through, which is obviously insane. And really just crazy to see the fact that the adaptation that since I was able to have with a lot of his builds to kind of come through. But Lotus able to pick up their very first victory of the season. I was not considering lock-in. But yeah, honestly, it was a really, really good adjustment there by Lotus. I thought they played together a lot better. I thought they were a little bit more coordinated in a lot of those plays, and ultimately ended up being a lot more successful because of it.
Yeah, and Strawberry Moon as well in this Lysandra was an absolute menace, as well as Aftermoon, who both of them together were just completely monstrous together. As I'm not really sure if there's any specific moment that I think would be super impactful. I think it was all just a correlation. Correlation? That's probably not the right word. A compilation of very interesting moments from the Lysandra being able to just jump forward with the claw and ulti priority target without really getting interrupted or interrupted. Um, and yeah, I mean, I don't really know what to say beyond that. Strawberry Moon, After Moon, the Moon duo made that game an absolute living nightmare for Dorado Gaming Iota, and that sort of sums it up.
Yeah, and obviously it's back to back weeks of our stream. Going to that game 3 final game. So obviously more content for everybody. I know Septi's a little disappointed. Can't watch the Knicks unfortunately too early. To kind of come through, but it is one of those things where we're excited to get that game 3 to come through.
Yeah, I mean, it's been sort of a tale of two different games, right? I feel like Dorado Gaming really were uh, working and humming in game number 1, and then Lotus in game number 2 just played their con to perfection. I would argue this game number 2 was kind of a draft diff. I like I don't like saying that very often, but if Dorado Gaming doesn't snowball, if Dorado Gaming doesn't massively increase the pace of this game and shut down the Lysandra and shut down the Xinjiao and shut down the Yunara, it's almost impossible to win, especially if, again, I don't know why I'm being so bitter about this, but if you're not building shield cut or heal cut, it's impossible to deal with them. Um, but I mean, both teams, saw a lot out of their opponents in these first 2 games. They sort of know, top's going to pick tanks and try and scale out. Junglers are going to pick, bruisers to fight each other to the death. And this bot lane is incredibly volatile. And so as long as you keep those things in mind going into game number 3, I think we are in for a fun event, Orion.
Absolutely, excited to get into it. I think both these teams, like you said, have a pretty good idea of what both these teams are trying to accomplish, and really, when it comes down to it, for this game number 3, it's going to come down obviously to execution. I think obviously both these teams have had signs of success, so hopefully I'd really like to see both these teams kind of come together and kind of have a good of both games and really have a solid game 3 to end it.
Yeah. Before we head to break, I do want to remind everyone and also reintroduce everyone to a feature we have at CCS. We are going to be continuing our CCS revival replay runs with everyone. We have some tech that will allow us to watch/download replays even after the client patches. So all you need to do is upload all your raffle files from your matches to hashtag Apollo replays in the Discord server. I'm saying this because we're at the end of game 2, and a lot of teams will come in and pop and say and see what's going on the stream. So to any players listening and to anyone who might watch this game in the future, be sure to include all the game replays and team sides per game. The main goal of this is just to make sure you have your matches on the CCS YouTube. So we have all access and potential to watch all CCS matches week over week instead of just streamed matches. And sometimes we might be able to even cast some of them. So if you post your replay, if you send them to the Apollo's replay chat in the Discord, you'll probably see your matches up on YouTube, and some of them might even be casted. Um, and yeah, make sure you upload the whole set and sort of go from there. But with that said, we are going to take a short break as we get set up for game number 3. So stick around for the final deciding match of Dorado Gaming Iota versus Lotus. Hello, everyone. We are back for a draft of game number 3. And I know Orion said that I wasn't going to get to watch the Knicks game, but I did just check on it. And from what I saw, the Knicks were up by 29 points in the end of the third quarter. So I am very excited for that in the time being. But I believe we are getting into draft just now, as I couldn't have timed that transition any better. We are here now with the full draft. These teams are now playing ball, thankfully. But yeah, Nefiri is going to be banned now from Lotus on the red side, and Karma matched on the Nefiri banned on the blue side, and Karma banned on the red side.
Right.
As the
Yeah,
teams are now,
we've seen these two bans pretty much happen the entire series so far.
yeah,
Obviously, for both these teams, when you're at the third game and you're kind of going down the champion list for both these teams, it can get a little hectic at times in terms of really picking out what you actually want to play to kind of to come through. So I'm gonna be curious to see what actually both of these teams are, really kind of opting towards, right? I mean, obviously, we've kind of seen a front to back composition every single game from Lotus so far. They've picked that tankier top lane champion, and they've really kind of relied on Crispy and Aftermoon and Starboard Moon to be the major carries. And then obviously for the Roto Gaming Iota, we saw that first game. They were able to use their early game prowess to kind of take a lead and kind of go from there and really kind of jump ahead. But all of a sudden, that game number 2, they weren't quite able to kind of have that same early game, like, I guess, prowess that they were trying to look for. And unfortunately, ended up biting them in the butt. So I'm a little curious to see if they're going to go back to a little bit more of playing that scaling type game, or if they're going to kind of forego it a little bit. But a very early Syndra pick coming through from Rotogame Iota.
yeah. I mean, that must be comfort for NBK, and it must be something that they are really prepared to just play blind, or at least they're aware of what the counter pick will be. I feel like we don't ever see this champion blinded like this. Um, I'm also trying to think of what is still available on the board in terms of priority picks. Um, with junglers, it's probably just, I don't even know. It's probably just the tank junglers for the most part, as Aurora will be locked in. I think that's a very Syndra favored matchup versus the Aurora. She's not really able to play at much range, as well as the Sky of the Week is going to keep the Aurora away. And I mean, being able to just press the Unleash power when Aurora tries to jump on your head is a very strong counterplay tool, as Caitlyn now going to get locked in. But with no Karma with no Seraphine available, it is a little tough to play Caitlyn in this game. I'm curious to see what they pair it up with.
Mhm.
I know a lot of people will say, Lux Morgana, but I'm not really sure if those track if you have already locked in an Aurora. So maybe they go for something like an Alistar, is sort of where my head is at.
Yeah, I was gonna say like definitely kind of needed like an engaged champion really to kind of get
Yeah.
things going for their composition. Sivir obviously being locked in here for the side of Dorado giving Iota, and and you kind of go back to the Alistar. Typically, Alistar is commonly picked into Sivir because she can't spell shield your combo. She can only spell shield one part of the combo. The Nico is one of those champions I was thinking as a possibility because she kind of fits the mold of having the range, the ability to kind of start fights with, but also having very lane dominance with landing a lot of her abilities to come through. It's very, very strong. And also the thing
Bard
with
is a
Nico
Bard is a
too,
decent Caitlyn, is a
yeah,
fairly decent Caitlyn
it
partner.
it is absolutely, and the thing with Nico too is the fact that you are able to kind of prevent some of those melee supports from being picked. Because if you are picking a champion like this Alistar or like a champion like Braum or whatever, this
And
Nico can
prophetic.
have a very very easy time in this lane. So yes, Alistar will be good for the game. It will be good for their overall, like I guess, the ability to kind of start fights, but it will be kind of hard for this Caitlyn to ever really step up because she is going to be dealing with a Nico and a Sivir hitting her when Alistar will have a hard time being able to answer back.
Yeah, it definitely is an interesting, you know, pairing with the Caitlyn. We're gonna have to see Shibs be really on the ball when it comes to keeping track of where the Nico is. Because Headbutt, will very easily be able to punt away the Pop Blossoms,
Mhm.
should they spot them out. But yeah, I mean, this is not going to be the type of Caitlyn game where you're going to be batting down towers, left and right. But I still imagine versus the relatively low range of Sivir and Nico and Syndra, that Crispy will be able to fire pretty safely so far, so long as they're not getting jumped on by like a Nico Flash. With Nocturne banned as well, why would Dorado ban Nocturne from themselves? That's really surprising. I don't
Well,
think that Lotus were really going to pick it. I think it'd be okay as a denial pick, but I feel like they'd much rather just ban it themselves.
yeah, I mean, I guess it's one of those things with them being on red side. They felt the pressure that if Nocturne were to get picked, that their champions would kind of have a hard time dealing with it, which is true. I mean, obviously, Syndra, Nico, and Sivir are three fairly immobile champions that have a hard time if the second Nocturne presses his ultimate button, they pretty much have to just run for the wind or run for I don't know the saying. Just basically run away as fast as they possibly can to kind of garner a lot of space. But instead, of that Nocturne pick, it could possibly end up being like a champion that has very similar engaged tools, like the Vi. Obviously, Fizz is a very common counter into a champion like Syndra. You can nullify all of her damage from her point and click button, or I guess her what's called gameplay button, as from her ultimate to come through. You can nullify all of that damage to kind of come through, and it is very hard for Syndra to kind of play the game in this type of champion. It's not typically something that I would say is like very common. So this Aurora pick could easily be going into the top lane. It's one of the things I like about this champion, like the Aurora, is it's very flexible. It can go into top and the mid. Obviously, Fizz as a champion did receive some jungle buffs as well. So this it could just be a jungle Fizz. We don't necessarily know
Yeah, that's where
exactly,
my head was
as that
going.
was a no pick from Anoxia. Kind of curious to see what that actually is. At some point, we will probably have an idea from production. I'm sure they'll talk about it in chat. But yeah, I mean, lots of flexibility happening here for Lotus.
It's a Mumu. I
Okay.
don't know how I feel about this. There is a lot of big AOE stuns, for the side of Dorado Gaming. It is definitely a composition that works, in in these less coordinated divisions, um, and it is paired alongside that Renekton that is going to be very strong into whatever matchup gets picked into them, unless it's something like really. I can't really even think of bad Renekton matchups at this point. I think the champion is just so
Well,
infallible.
well, one of them is Aurora. If
That is
Stubby
true.
plays it. If
That is
if
true.
obviously if Stubby plays it. But I think with the champion build Stubby has, I know I've seen obviously Nars in the kit, obviously, so it's a champion that does kind of have the range, but Renekton is one of those champions that is able to dash aggressively on top of the Gnar, burn that hop cooldown away from him, and Gnar's cooldown early game on his E, which is his jump ability, is about 20 seconds. So
Yeah.
if you're able to burn that cooldown and really kind of expose him early, all of a sudden was Renekton is able to just kind of get on top of him and cause a lot of that havoc. So obviously, I'm kind of curious to see how this Fizz jungle does end up actually playing out. It can cause a lot of havoc in this game specifically because you can nullify Nico's ultimate, you can nullify Syndra's ultimate, and can really end up dictating the pace of how a lot of these fights end up going.
Yeah, I mean the Amumu as well. Should be fairly. I have not played enough or any Fizz jungle. To be honest, I don't really know much about it. I've played Fizz mid a couple times just for fun and normals. Um, yeah, I mean we could talk about this red side real quick because I think there are a lot of interesting things to talk about. Just because this Kaylin Alistar lane is going to be um, super low impact, I imagine, because Sivir Nico will just completely be pushing against them. Um, and when you have a champion like Fizz that really wants to, duel and fight and gank a lot, because I mean they're not really a farming jungler. I think you clear relatively slowly, even with your burn from your W. And so having three lanes that arguably do not have prio, because I don't think Syndra or I don't think Aurora will have prio. I don't think Kaylin Alistar will, or yeah, Kaylin Alistar will have prio. Maybe Stubby gets prio on the Gnar, but then again, we go back to what we talked about in game one, where should you really be pathing to your sub lane, to your player?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where obviously, I think with the Dorado Gaming Iota's composition, they have so much threats early on into this game, and I think it's going to be one of those things that they're going to have to be able to really like I guess similar to game number one is have control of the lanes. I think Aurora obviously will have. It's going to be the Aurora lane will be the lane that's probably be the most even. I would say Monoxy and Loveless should have free reign of the bot lane, pretty much the entire lane. There's not really much the bot lane of Lotus can actually do down there, and then really top lane kind of comes down to how well is Gnar able to space the Renekton because obviously the Gnar will have the ability to outrange him, but if Renekton ever gets on top of him, Gnar as mini Gnar is so fragile as a concept that he will just get absolutely blasted if that is ever to be the case. So I think it's gonna be one of these things where I think the early game, right, is going to be a really big deal for Dorado Gaming Iota in terms of seeing how far of a lead they're able to kind of build up individually. But once level six kind of happens, and once they kind of start transitioning into that mid game slash team fight phase, if the game is still relatively close, I do kind of like Lotus's composition in terms of really kind of starting fights aggressively. But similar to Dorado Game Iota's that we saw from like I think it was game two draft for Lotus, it's kind of wombo combo. You've got the big AoE Amumu ult, big Nico ult that can really be synergized together, and multi-man knockups to come through can be very easy to land if they're able to get synced up. But we have seen from both these teams that at times coordination can be a little bit off.
Yeah, I was gonna sort of take the other side. I know you're saying you like Lotus, but I'm a big fan of Dorado Gaming. Currently, it's gonna the only really counter that Lotus has is to make sure that Shibs is the only person checking every bush. If anyone other than Shib checks a bush, it is instant death, and then an instant team fight loss. Because if you get hit by a bandage toss, if you get hit by a root from the Nico, it all will get immediately piled up on by the following CC. But so level six is going to be really critical. I hope that Loveless, sticks in lane just a little bit longer, just to make sure that they're getting that level six before they start roaming around. They've sort of been, trying to make their impact felt. Curious to see where if we have the Nico mastery to to dodge certain things. I would love, this is an interaction in Loveless. You shouldn't be listening to this, but if you are Nico and you have a minion, is charged in your bank, and Aftermoon tries to throw fish at you, if you have the reaction time to switch into a minion, the fish will just fly past you. It will not hook on, and it will miss completely. Um,
Yep.
so
Gotta
try and do
gotta
that.
love gotta love Nika mechanics. So
Yes,
unfortunately,
we
that
do. We
champion
do.
is very annoying. It's been changed many times because I mean, obviously, at one point, she could be turned into a cannon minion and take a tower for about 12 seconds, which is obviously
Hmm.
unrealistic. But I do believe that the players are getting into the actual client draft, and we should be going into spectate delay. So should be getting into game relatively within a couple minutes.
Yeah, and with that said, we are going to take a short break. So stick around. We'll be right back with the finale of Dorado Gaming versus Lotus. We are back now for the final game of Dorado Gaming Iota versus Lotus in week 2 of the CCS Apollo League. We are here back on the Rift now. Teams are going to their respective places. Ping's going down to defend the blue side. With some nonsense happening in game number 2, the junglers for the side of Dorado Gaming want to make sure that CJ Lopez is clear, is uninterrupted this time. I've seen something already, Orion. I have seen Aftermoon summoner spells.
Yep, Fizz is one of those champions that, to be completely honest, doesn't really need flash. So opting for taking the combat summoner spell, obviously going to help with his overall ganks. It's going to help with his damage over time prowess from his W dot / bleed that he has built into his character. So curious to see how that one ends up playing out for him, but gotta love a good cowbell coming through from ships. I love that skin. That's the only skin. I'm a support player. That's the only skin I use when I play Alistar. It's if you use any other skin, you're just wrong.
Hold on. I am a Conqueror Alistar enjoyer.
Well,
all right.
Well, you're wrong. Sorry.
Well, I don't have cowbell. All right. What can I do? What am I gonna do?
Well,
granted, I also don't play support, so
fair enough.
I have about 50 Lee Sin skins, so I probably should not be buying Alistar skins.
Yep, and
anyway.
we're kind of seeing the bot lane happening here, right? From what we kind of talked about, right? We're going to see Monoxia and Loveless pretty much have the complete control over this lane. Obviously, now that Shivs is level 2, he does have the ability to kind of dash forward and aggressively look for these plays. Kali G needs to be very careful with how he actually ends up using that E. Slice and dice to kind of come through, because if he's using it defensively, that's when Gnar is kind of able to kind of really posture the forward and really kind of play aggressive. He needs to kind of always kind of have a constant threat of that ability to be used aggressively as much as he possibly can. So just something small to note, as we did see a ward on the Raptors to kind of know that CJ Lopez is doing a full clear. So both Aftermoon and Amumu are going to be pretty much relatively on time with each other with these camps. I would imagine Amumu is probably going to be a little bit faster than the Fizz. It's going to be pretty close in terms of their actual speed, but it does look like the bot lane of Lotus has kind of garnered a little bit of that pushback. So that first initial Soda Crab may actually be a little bit under contention in terms of which support's actually kind of able to get that roam off first. We do see the wave is going to get pushed in here by Lotus's bot lane, so that first initial Scuttle Crab on the bot side should actually go to the way of Lotus. I'm a bit surprised considering how much control Monoxia and Loveless should have.
I mean, it's sort of it was sort of Monoxia and Loveless just not putting the pedal to the metal. They didn't really know where Aftermoon was because of all the wards placed down. They were all in Iota's jungle. Um, so Lotus knew exactly where CJ Lopez was. Dorado had not a single clue where this Fizz was starting. And it looks like they're going to get double crabbed as well. No mid laner for Dorado Gaming means that CJ Lopez is actually going to fly in here. Does find Aftermoon. Going to land the first bandage toss. As hold on, Shivs as well, gonna find the Nico going so low as Loveless. First blood gonna go towards Crispy. And that's gonna be a great play for Lotus's bot lane. Kill onto your Caitlyn as well as a wave that's gonna get shoved in. CJ Lopez now trying to find something in exchange, but very early lead now for the bot side of Lotus.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'd love to see it replay at some point, but I mean, that's just something that just should not happen down in the bottom side of that map. Yeah, so here we go. So we're going to see what looks like, yeah, Loveless is going to be pushed up way too far forward, and Shiv's just going to combo into the wall. Yeah, I can't believe he's posturing that far forward aggressive. Great combination by Shivs to layer his cooldowns there, because obviously when you get pushed into the wall, you don't actually travel as far, so he's able to delay his Q timer there. So if the trap was able to land from Crispy as well, so well played there mechanically by the bot lane of Lotus, but gigantic mistake for Dorado Gaming Iota's bot lane here from Loveless. We kind of talked about it a little bit, talking about, hey, you know, I mean, obviously this has to be a winning point of the game for Dorado Gaming Iota, just with how these champions should operate, and unfortunately, really shot themselves in the foot then, just then.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta hope that the level 6 as well, you know, will still be there once Loveless decides to, not decides to, but once Loveless gets there. It is going to be rough for a little bit as Caitlyn is on a much better buy than Monaxia currently. Gets a lot more AD from that pickaxe and longsword than from that Caulfields. But the CS pretty even across the board. I mean, Fizz is the only person with a real CS lead. Getting that double crab is a +8 in the CS department. Checking on gold real quick. 500 in favor of Crispy here. But that should close just a little bit as Monaxia catches this wave. And Dragon might be on the table now for Lotus.
Yep, Dragon should be a possibility. Obviously, Mumu is kind of in the area, but Aftermoon is just deciding to base. He kind of just wants to see how much uptime he can have. Which honestly, for a champion like Fizz, if he doesn't actually have the ability to really have access to his ultimate, it can be kind of hard to just get on top of people to kind of look for those ganks. The long range Shark does apply a slow, which is very nice to have. Curious to see if this ward. Oh, actually, the ward is just gonna time out. So that's what I say. Is CJ Lopez? Yeah, CJ Lopez is in the area. He will kind of be able to get away scot free. And for those of you that have been kind of noticing to the very bottom of our screen, there's a lot of 1-1s going on tonight. So far, it does appear that every single series that happened tonight was actually all the way to game number 3, which honestly, that's incredibly rare.
It just, you know, is a testament to the quality of the Apollo League this year. We are back. We are truly back in production. As a Mumu, not going to find anything on that bot side. Is going to be forced to base. But Aftermoon as well, I mean, just getting more and more farm. CJ Lopez is not going to clear nearly as quickly as this Fizz. And I'm going to be honest, I was expecting more action at this point. I was not expecting us to be only 1-0 at 6 minutes, especially considering how bloody these first 2 games have been. Dragon on the board, so maybe that will change in a moment. But Strawberry Moon now pathing down is not much going on. We're flicking around just a bit.
Yeah, I mean, it is one of those things where I guess, like, you know, it's game 3, right? This is ultimately the decision in terms of who actually ends up making the plays happen, right? Because, you know, ultimately it is one of the things that, you know, obviously this is the last game of the night. You know, obviously when you're a little bit early in the series, you can kind of make a little bit kind of crazier thing happen. You can kind of make sure that, you know, more often than not, you can really kind of make plays. But when you are kind of playing that decider, it can be a little bit harder. So you see All-Star kind of comboing in, but nice root there to come through from Loveless to get a lot of damage.
Oh, Monaxia, we got to be a little bit better with that spell shield there, as Ace in the Hole gonna be blocked by Loveless. A great headbutt pulverize from Shivs though onto Monaxia, who was just chilling in that bush. I mean, that trade was almost so good for the side of Dorado Gaming, but the Piltover Peacemaker from Crispy was just so, you know, so good. Did a lot of damage to Monaxia. Did not take any of the damage reduction as well from going through any minions. Just hit the Sivir as the first target, and that spell shield was not available. or wasn't, timed properly. But looking down, I mean, that's still going to be an advantage, I believe, for the Lotus bot lane should they decide to start this dragon up. Aftermoon working towards what probably will be that Dusk and Dawn as the first item, as it's pretty, shivs. Not going to quite find that wraparound. But yeah, I mean, this bot lane is going probably as well as you would want to for Lotus, especially considering you did not pick the lane that was going to be, traditionally dominant. The fact that you're getting away with Crispy being so far in the driver's seat, without having to invest that enchanter support, that support that is, gonna give you the prio but not be very strong later. Now CJ Lopez forced to just watch as that first dragon goes down, and the AD and AP buffs going the way of Lotus. It's gonna get harder early on in this game as the damage from Strawberry Moon, from Stubby, from Crispy, all gonna be doing just that little bit more as Kalaji now trying to get a bit of a trade onto Stubby, slices forward, gonna try and use that empowered W, does not have the dice back to walk away. But yeah, we're now seeing a lot of trading on the map.
Yeah. Obviously, both these teams are really trying to posture for that aggressive position. Is like you said, very aggressive trades happening really everywhere. And honestly, like it kind of as a result of a lot of these characters having access to more levels in the cool kit. Obviously, now that level 6s are kind of across the board for just about everybody, this is really where you can start seeing a lot of action. You'll see obviously Curse the Sad Mummy for the Amumu, as well as the Shark coming through for the Fizz. So we do see Stubby, Stubby obviously making the roam down, having that pressure, really helping Aftermoon here, kind of helps to kind of secure this Scuttle Crab. He's gonna face check here into CJ Lopez.
Yeah.
Oh, Shark
gonna go out on CJ Lopez. Flash, Curse the Sad Mummy onto Strawberry Moon. Gonna go down, second blood of the game as the Fizz is gonna get a trade kill onto the Mumu. No flash available. Scatter the Weak gonna land onto the Fizz now. Does not have the pull, but it does not matter. Fizz doing so much damage. Double kill to the Lotus jungler.
Yeah, a little bit disrespectful there at the back end of that play for NBK. He did not have anything left in the toolkit. He already used his unleashed power at the back end of that play to secure the kill onto Strawberry Moon. So just need to back off. But yeah, here's the initial replay here. You'll see Aftermoon obviously facing onto CJ Lopez. And obviously it's a very short range Shark, so it's very, very tiny, but ends up doing just enough to secure the kill there onto CJ Lopez. And like I said, MBK using his unleashed power to pick up the kill there onto Strawberry Moon. But afterwards, Aftermoon just says, hey, if you're going to stay that close to me, I will be able to kill you. Fizz is very strong at this stage of the game. You see a trade happening here up in the top lane. Should be kind of a nothing burner here, as long as Gnar obviously has turned into Mega Gnar. It can be pretty hard to fight him melee to melee due to all the extra stats that he gets for free from his passive. But, obviously, fantastic couple kills there for Lotus, and all of a sudden, looking at the gold lead here, it's, we're only 10 minutes in, but 2,000 gold lead here for the side of Lotus.
Yeah, I mean, this Fizz is now so strong. Was able to use that Ignite to the best of their ability. Was going to be as well using the Playful Trickster to dodge out and deal so much damage. I mean, just looking around the map, I feel like this game is progressing at a very nice pace for Lotus. As you said, 2,000 gold in their favor. They get the dragons. It looks as though Grubs are going to be next on the plate for Aftermoon, as they're joined now by Shibs.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be one of those things where, they're gonna try to make a play at the bottom side with Alistar being up at the top side. So we kind of saw this right in that very first game. We saw Shibs obviously making plays on the map, but Dorado Gaming tried to punish Crispy on that bottom side, but unfortunately wasn't quite able to make a play happen here. There is a wave crashing under the tower. Nico is posturing potentially, but on a ward, Alistar able to kind of roam down, so able to get the Void Grubs and try to keep their AD carry alive at the same time. So Lotus will kind of consider that to be a win. Obviously, Crispy did drop fairly low, but still able to maintain relatively CS or even a CS lead at this point in the game. But Monaxia is going to kind of continue with the pressure here, and Crispy is very, very low. So essentially, they are put into a position where, with this much HP, they basically have to play very, very careful, because a couple boomerangs and maybe just a Nico EQ will actually just outright kill Crispy if he's not careful.
Yeah, I mean, on the top side of the map, though, Aftermoon was able to trade the entire top side, or what was there, I believe. It was just the blue buff, if I'm not mistaken, of CJ Lopez, whereas the Mumu was not able to take any of the bot camp of Aftermoon. And Renekton might be getting caught by a Shark here. Yes, will do so on the top side, as very low as Kali G. Playful Trickster might be available. The Ignite almost off cooldown. Shark going to come out, going to be short. CJ Lopez, or sorry, as Kali G will use the Slice to get away from that. Very good usage, I mean, of Aftermoon there. Just making sure that Stubby is building that lead.
Yeah, I would have loved to seen like that very initial camera the second Fizz was walking around the corner because it looked like Renekton was basing and standing still. So it looked as if if Fizz was able to use his Shark a little bit more aggressively first. But well,
And
actually,
Shibs, you're in the
he does
middle
have
of
access to his
3.
ultimate.
Gonna pop the Unbreakable. Gonna try and walk themselves out of this. Bandage toss gonna go wide as NBK. You are not paying attention to what's going on. Between Realms gonna pop. That Strawberry Moon now in the face of CJ Lopez. Does not have, or has the ultimate available in just a moment here if they want to use it. Yes, Curse the Sad Mummy onto 4. As the Pop Blossom gonna follow onto 3. Will be a trade kill so far. Monaxia gonna get another kill. Double kill for the Sivir, but it will be matched by Aftermoon's double kill. Crispy autoing down, and it will be a triple kill now going the way of the Lotus jungler. 3 for 4 across the map. And a gold lead now growing for Lotus.
All right, we're going to see the initial part of this play. Shib's kind of getting caught out in the river, but he is an Alistar. He does have access to his Unbreakable Will, having 55% damage reduction built into the kit. And like you were saying, MBK not recognizing how close he was without having actually the proper vision. But he had the ward in the bush. He knew they were there, but he's opted into it. But a massive Curse of the Sad Mummy with the Pop Blossom over the top. But we talked about it earlier. The Fizz having the ability to immune the Pop Blossom was a big deal in that fight, and able to basically have a lot of that extra damage over the top. So well played there by Aftermoon. Looking for another play onto NBK.
NBK. Shibs will be here, has the boots available. Headbutt Pulverize going to land on to the Dorado Gaming mid laner stun as well. Strawberry Moon, it should just be a formality. Playful Trickster get a little bit closer. Aftermoon not quite in range. Shark will go. Shibs being able to use the Pulverize. It might be a trade onto the Alistar. No, the Lotus support walks away, and it will be a 1-for-0 kill going the way of Lotus, and down goes NBK. And it's just adding insult to injury. You try so hard. The Scatter of the Weak goes wide. The Unleashed Power not enough onto the Alistar. And, oh, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's just good recognition by Shib saying, hey, I know NBK is going to go for this plating. A nice movement there from Shibs to kind of dash out of the way. I kind of thought he would just go for the headbutt there to kind of push him a little bit closer to Aftermoon, but instead choosing to go for the actual straight up knockup to kind of secure that Aftermoon's able to get in range. And we're going to see the Unstoppable Power just barely unable to pick up the kill there on the Shibs. We do see some aggressively posturing here from Dorado and Iota. Monaxia is sitting in that bush, but it is just a Sivir. It's not like the Nico was the one sitting in that bush, possibly looking for that play, as CJ Lopez is kind of in the area, possibly posturing here, as we do see, both these teams, obviously it is 15 minutes in, several items being picked up here by both teams, and one of the characters in this game does have a pretty powerful book in their inventory, as Fizz has purchased the Medjai's Soul Stealer, one of those items that says, hey, I'm feeling very confident about my state in the game, and I'm going to try my best to steamroll, but it is one of those items that obviously inherently loses value if they do end up dying, and very quickly at that. So it's one of those things where he is going to have to continue to be the one that's really kind of taking control of this game. Otherwise, he will just end up losing that gold value very quickly.
Yeah, and it looks like they're going to be going for that Nashor's Tooth second, which I don't really know if that's the best item in this game. I feel like if you're Fizz, I mean, I guess you have Conqueror, so maybe it's the best item for you at this moment. Ryan, I got to ask you a question, because if I'm on Dorado Gaming Iota, I'm racking my brain. I'm stressed. I'm trying to think about what the possibilities are for me to get back into the game. And the only things I can come back to are your massive AoEs. How are they going to be able to best utilize these to sort of find their way back?
Well, I think it has to be in conjunction with each other. I think they have to work on, playing strong around the vision game, right? Because like you talked about, there's not really a ton of people that can just face check into them and be successful, right? Obviously, you have Alistar that can be in the area with his ultimate that can kind of do that. But other than that, unless you have Mega Gnar, they're going to have a hard time. So with this dragon spawning up in about 1 minute and 45 seconds, if they feel confident, I would like to see them kind of be able to use those abilities to kind of in unison to really kind of make those plays. But Stubby doing a nice job aggressively trading in here, but Nico's kind of looking like she's kind of wrapping, but with Stubby transforming here, I don't think they can actually make this play. It's going to end up just being a Rift Herald here picked up from the side of Dorado Gaming Iota. But it is going to be, like, with that dragon spawning, it is a possibility for them. But CJ Lopez is actually going to go ahead and immediately use that Rift Herald. I think that's an error. I think it's one of those things where he wanted to use his, oh, actually, Fizz.
Actually, Ace in the hole going so low here. Playful Tricks are trying to go down. We'll use the Unbreakable now. And it's just going to be a solo kill, or not a solo kill, but a kill onto, and actually for the time being, Shib still taking up this tower. Going to have to drop it right now. Going to use the heal to keep this alive. No, Unbreakable times out as Aftermoon take this Charge tower going so low. Unleash power from the top side. Playful tricks are in. Gonna get the kill onto Nico. And then this Fizz is so tanky. That tower shot does no damage after it cools down. But a kill on the bot side. 2 kills for 2 across the map as Stubby died on the top.
Yeah, I was about to say, we saw the kill happen on the top side as all that action was happening. We're going to see that layering of the CC, I would imagine, come through from CJ Lopez. As long as that Vantage Toss is going to land, actually, instead, it's just going to walk at him. We're going to use the Renekton W first to make sure the Amumu ultimate is guaranteed to land. So well played by them. But yeah, a lot of that action happened on the bot side. I thought for sure that Fizz was going to end up dying there, but well played by him, able to keep his Medjay Soul Stealer stacks continuously going and purchasing that Naster's Tooth as well. This Fizz is an absolute problem, and we kind of talked about it a little bit here where we've got, you know, obviously Dorado Gaming Iota has their composition built around their major ultimate abilities, and Fizz doesn't really care about those abilities. He kind of just gets to completely immune them as long as his playful trickster is up and available and kind of able to make those plays happen. As we do see Dragon obviously being started up here by Lotus. They do have 2 dragons already. This is going to put them at soul point, and we've seen some very early soul souls already picked up here for both of these teams in this series. So another game where both of these teams are going to have, or I guess for Lotus, going to have access to possibly having a 24-minute dragon soul.
And in a game where you're solely reliant on massive big AoE CCs, to be facing down a Chem Tech Dragon Soul is just an absolute kick in the teeth. You gotta know though, Aftermoon, you were talking about it before, is so strong. I think that this Fizz can just throw fish to zone, or can throw shark to zone, and just completely laugh while CJ Lopez and Loveless are forced to use their ultis. Luckily, CJ Lopez gonna find the Fizz with the scanner. Yeah. Now Shibs is here to support, but I think there's just not enough range on Dorado Gaming's side to really threaten Aftermoon. I mean, who still is very squishy, right? This Fizz, if they get caught by the CCS, Banishot's going to land on the Crispy Flash and Cleanse Use. Going to be able to land that second one as well to land some, but it's not quite enough damage yet. CJ Lopez trying to walk down the Caitlyn, but the Fizz is here. Shark going to land onto Nico. Pop Blast going to land onto no one. As now Playful Tricks are in. Going to have to choose between the two. Will find the right one. Cali G trying to make their impact felt. TP in now from NBK as Cali G going to get run down between realms. Used to close the gap just a little bit. But it's going to be TP, sorry, for NBK and for Stubby. And it's going to be a 2-for-1, or a 1-for-1 rather, in this fight.
Yeah, I think towards the back end of that fight, I think Shibs just kind of saved Cali G there at the very end by knocking him away. We're going to get a better view of it. We're going to get a replay here. But yeah, it's just going to be Crispy, you know, trying to partially aggressive here, trying to look for those good trades. But CC Lopez recognizes that Alistar is not here with Crispy. He's going to flash ult to land it onto both members, and Shibs not quite immuning the CC there from CC Lopez with his ultimate. We're going to see Aftermoon just absolutely obliterate Loveless here with all of his damage. But then you're going to see 4 members surrounding Cali G and going to get instantly knocked away by the Alistar. So really, what should have been a 2-for-1 for the side of Lotus ends up actually only being a 1-for-1. And when you think about it, obviously, you know, there was a huge shutdown there that went the way, I believe, of CJ Lopez from Crispy. So fantastic play there in order to pick that one up.
Yeah, I mean, you got to notice now as well, Aftermoon is fully published with that book.
Yeah.
25 pages, the masterpiece, fully written. 10,
yeah, and
0-1 with a 700 gold bounty.
Yeah, and also for those that can currently see, Renekton is dead, so it does look like Fizz actually picked up the kill onto Renekton to finish the book at 25. So yeah, here's gonna be the replay coming down. Here's the Aftermoon kind of Cali G. This is, I believe, immediately right after the fight, just kind of hunting him down. There's just nothing he can do.
Oh my God,
this Fizz is just so strong at this current state of the game. Obviously, Baron is the only major objective up and alive, but 2 minutes until the Dragon Soul spawns. And really, for Dorado Gaming Iota, I mean, honestly, considering where they were at a couple minutes ago, I feel like their position is actually not that bad. I mean, obviously, it's really, at this point in the game, it's really just the Fizz. right? Obviously, Caitlyn's got her 2.5 items. She's strong, and Aurora can definitely cause a lot of havoc. But really, in all reality, it is the Fizz. But unfortunately for Dorado Gaming Iota, I think Aftermoon recognizes that and says, okay, I actually need to do a good job of staying alive to make sure I can continuously do damage and keep my Magi Soul Stealer active and available. So purchasing the Seeker's Arm Guard a minute and a half before Dragon spawns as he's hunting
Uh-oh,
for
NBK.
NBK. He does have Zanya's though.
This is Zanya's. Who might be trying to bait it out. Does get the shark. Has Playful Trickster still available. Gonna use it to immune the stun. As Lotus is here, trying to support the mid lane as best as possible. And that's sort of the best opportunity you get is now Vandal Charge gonna land onto Crispy, who is just forced to tank it up. No cleanse available. Shiv's going so low, despite using oh my goodness, so much damage onto Renekton as Crispy is gonna fall. Fizz is now here from the top side. You gotta be careful. Monaxia, flash force from the Sivir is now Loveless trying to kite out the Fizz. Not gonna be able to fake them out with the clone. Between Realms gonna land. Loveless is gonna be able to walk that one out. As Strawberry Moon gonna get the kill onto CJ Lopez. Aftermoon is here now. MBK, you don't have the Zonias this time. You cannot run. Trying to hopefully get some damage onto Aftermoon, but the Playful Trickster is not gonna be so playful as it involves the blood of Syndra. That's gonna be another kill going the way of the Fizz, and it's gonna be a 3-for-1 in favor of Lotus.
Yeah, and just honestly, just some really small outplays there coming through from Lotus was the biggest difference there. We're going to see the initial play once again, honestly, fairly similar from Shivs. He's going to end up being the one that's initially kind of caught out from this play by CJ Lopez. And really the biggest difference here at this point in the game is you've got Renekton trying to tank up a lot of the damage in comparison to a champion like Alistar. Obviously, Monaxia is kind of just free hitting this entire time, but Alistar is so tanky, able to buy so much time. Renekton, not so much, but we're able to pick up that initial kill there onto Crispy, but Stubby able to land a nice little Mega Gnar to kind of kick Monaxia out of the fight, having to flash over the wall. We're going to see Shibs barely living with 1 HP. We're also going to see Strawberry Moon as well, also living with 1 HP. Obviously, you know, couple of AP differences here and there, or damage differences.
In the picture, we got another fight going on.
Yeah,
CJ Lopez so low, got caught out by Aftermoon, used the shark as well, was able to walk away from it. Does have the Curse of the Sad Mummy available, but it's just going to be soul started up now for the side of Lotus. And it might just be free for them. The Dorado Gaming Jungler is so low, and it will be Chemtech Soul now being worn by the side of Lotus. That extra bit of CC and damage when they're low is going to be so hard to deal with now.
Yeah.
How do you deal with Aftermoon? Is it just like you have to Fnatic bush the Fizz?
I mean,
and just land and just chain all your CC?
You kind of have to, because even if you don't chain it perfectly, he has the Seekers to at some point, you know, buy time. Or he obviously has his Playful Trickster. I mean, it's going to be very, very hard. I think it may also even boil down to maybe baiting Aftermoon into a position where he thinks he's stronger than what he really needs to be, because if he tries to be over eager and tries to kind of play, we kind of saw it a little bit at that tier 2 play where he tried to try to dive onto the Syndra that had stasis, right? Ultimately ended up doing nothing because no one else was really there. But imagine if the rest of the team could have possibly been there to maybe take the fight afterwards. It could have been very different, as we do see Aftermoon is currently hunting Kali G up in the top side, but wasn't quite able to track him down, did lose vision of him a little bit. Yeah, but he does have access to the Empower Blast Cones, is able to kind of get away from there. But obviously now, at this point in the game, Baron is the next major objective, and really, it's like they have a hard time, you know, sending anyone through this trap line, right? Obviously, you do have a champion like Nico that is able to eat up some of these traps and be able to kind of walk aggressively, but they have no vision anywhere past the river line. And we said maybe that one initial ward there on that one initial ward there by Shiz, but now that one's clear, they have no way of knowing what's possibly happening past this river line. And with that trap line readily available, it's gonna be hard to enter.
Yeah, but Baron just gets started up now. 11k, Shark available, Trap still down, no vision for Dorado Gaming. They do use a blue trigger to try and get in. CJ Lopez now trying to find something. Is going to use the flash to Curse of the Sad Mummy onto the team there. Crispy going so low. The Baron down to 2k. Aftermoon trying to take this one down. Crispy, though, going to be able to walk away from the Renekton. Going to be 2 kills already for Lotus. It's going to be so bad. Shibs getting the flash onto Monaxia, not being able to follow. But the Super Blast Cone is going to put the Alistar in a great place, as Aftermoon, no Shark available, is just going to be a Baron and 2 kills for the side of Lotus. And the gap to victory growing smaller and smaller in favor of this red side, as the second tower now going to be the first target of this Lotus squad.
Yeah, I think, Dorado Gaming, I think they had to kind of go for something. Obviously, kind of get into a little bit of that desperation mode to just be dashing or hopping aggressively forward there, trying to possibly look for a play. But with the goal difference the way that it is, and the amount of front line that Lotus has with Mega Gnar, with Alistar having his unbreakable will, it's just so hard to actually break through that initial line. The Sivir obviously is about 2.5, maybe 3 items now, but she's still just not quite have enough in the tank. And here's with that initial fight, we're gonna see Kali G trying to go from the left as CJ Lopez is gonna try to get into that backside, but
Oh, the target focus, though.
yeah, but by the time he actually gets into that fight, he's already 30% HP. And once again, we saw very similarly Shivs just going into the backside and backline and just causing so much disruption. And obviously, this is where the fight ends. They weren't quite able to kind of continue chasing forward a little bit there, but it's one of those things where I was saying it's just really hard for him to play. Monoxia has no way. Okay, never mind. I was gonna say he has no way of immuning Alistar's abilities there, even if he does use the spell shield. But like I was saying, in these team fights, Sivir has to have time where she's kind of just standing still, making sure all of her attacks are bouncing off of people and continuously kind of having that uptime. And if she's just being ran at by an Alistar with no one really to bounce those auto attacks off of, then I mean, obviously her damage is not nearly what it could be in a standard team fight if she was given the case.
Yeah, it's going to be so hard now as well to get even a single kill onto this Lotus squad. You have 2 Zhonya's available. You have the Steris Gauge as well, and the Caitlyn autoing from 10 miles away with that Hex Optic alongside a soon-to-be completed Rapid Fire Cannon. With that inhib down in the mid lane, all that's left now are the outside towers. As Aftermoon now going to find NBK. Nice scatter onto 2. Shark not going to find NBK quite, as the ace in the hole will knock down the Dorado Gaming mid laner just a little bit lower. As Aftermoon forces uses Zona, this could be the chance here. CJ Lopez trying to find the Crimson Side Mummy. No, but the damage to the Aurora is massive. As now Aftermoon trying to chase him down. Playful Trickster going to be able to find Monaxia as well. Down goes the Syndra. Kali G is left standing on the top side, wondering what just happened to their team. It will be a double kill for the Caitlyn, and this could spell defeat for the side of Dorado Gaming. Lotus gonna try and walking down the base now. The second inhib tower exposed. The second inhib now down. Third inhib on the top side down as well. It's gonna be a complete demolition for Lotus. First Nexus tower, second Nexus tower to follow shortly. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, week 2 of the Apollo League and CCS, Lotus going up 2-1, taking the victory.
Yeah, honestly, considering how the series started for Lotus to come through, I would have been very surprised to say, okay, Lotus is going to actually end up winning this series out. We saw Dorado Gaming had a very strong start. They basically demolished game number 1, but fantastic bounce back to come through from Lotus, obviously off the back of Aftermoon there on the Fizz. Definitely a surprise pick, I would say. Definitely not very common, at least from what we talked about. Neither of us was really kind of expecting that one to come through, but really a very strong showing on the champion, just completely kind of taking over the game. And really, obviously, when we think about Fizz mid, we really think about like the one-shot potential of just having a ton of AP, and just the second some of the Shark lands on someone, just absolutely blasting him. But this was kind of more of that on hits, like the on hits with Dusk and Dawn continuously auto attacking and being very aggressive. So. Yeah, so typically it's a different iteration, obviously better for the jungle, I would say, but still, I mean, absolutely made it work.
Yeah, this was the least active we've seen these junglers in this series so far. And I think, Ryan, if I'm not mistaken, we are going to try and get Aftermoon in for an interview. But yeah, this is the least active these junglers have been in the early game. And it really benefited Aftermoon on this phase, just being able to farm out, being able to get kills when it suited them, and, get objectives when it suited them. This all, I think, stems back to be honest, that first blood in the bot lane. Just Loveless stepping a little bit too far forward, getting killed by the Alistar. And it really just swung the pressure of the lane and the entire sort of momentum that Dorado Gaming had built up with this draft. I think, that first 2 levels was really good for the Sivir and Nico. And then it just all disappeared. It popped like a balloon.
Yeah, I think it was one of those things where we really talked about obviously the early game being a big deal for Dorado Gaming Iota. And because they drafted obviously a very winning bot lane in Sivir, specifically the Nico. The Nico was the one that was supposedly dominating the early parts of that lane. And honestly, for the most parts of that game, it felt like it was a couple situations where it's like they were giving up push when they shouldn't have been, so they lost early at Scuttle Crowd, then they got 2v2'd in the bot lane. And really, it just felt like they were, I don't know if it was pressure or if they just didn't want to actively try to make a lot of those situations happen. And unfortunately, ended up kind of biting them in the butt a little bit. It allowed Lotus to kind of put themselves in a position where they could kind of scale through that early to mid game, and it really allowed them to have a lot of success after that point. And for a champion like Nico, it's like Nico obviously does have a lot of team fighting prowess ability, but she's not an Alistar. She does not have the ability to soak up as much damage as he does. So she has to have a lot of that impact very early on into the game, or else she kind of becomes a lot lesser of a champion. Definitely gets outscaled.
Yeah, I mean, and then I want to sort of highlight the top lane matchup just a little bit. The Gnar put in an absolute work on that top side. Um, it is sometimes the job that goes the unsung hero was that Gnar holding it down, not falling victim to the ganks that were trying to come in from the Nico, from the Amumu, and just doing a really really solid job making sure they scaled into the game, became a side lane problem. I don't think we saw any major Nars, so that is sort of the way it went. It was just complete domination. You got 4 dragons to none. You got the grubs as well, and just a great team victory for the side of Lotus.
Yeah, I think it was one of those things where obviously, Lotus did have a top line sub this series, but typically it's very common for the ability for, I guess, like subs to kind of come into a team and basically kind of be more of a detriment than someone that truly helps the team. But I think Stubby did a good job of not letting that happen in this series. It was basically just a gigantic nothing burner from either top laner really in this series. Mostly just a lot of tanks trying to buy space, and I think it was one of those things where I think he did a pretty solid job in understanding what he was trying to do a lot of times in those games. But I think it was one of those things where we saw in that very last fight. I think we may possibly getting an interview of it. Oh, sorry, not an interview, a replay of that very last fight. We kind of talked about if Aftermoon was going to be put in a position where he was kind of being a little bit over aggressive, they could possibly punish him. And we kind of saw, we almost saw it, right? We're gonna see he's gonna go around this
Yeah.
tower here, possibly look onto NBK here with the shark. But if the shark doesn't land on you initially, it would sit on the ground like that. So CJ Lopez is gonna say, okay, I'm gonna try to get, or sorry, CL Lopez, trying to get on top of him here, but just gonna able to have just enough time to immune it, and then just absolute blasting from Strawberry Moon over the top with the Aurora damage. So at that point, it kind of became, obviously we talked about like when it was like a 4,000 gold lead, we're like, okay, it's pretty much just After Moon that's causing a lot of problems. When it's a 14,000 gold lead, it's everybody kind of causing problems. So at that point, obviously having such a strong champion in the Fizz just really allowed them to take such a stranglehold of this game. And unfortunately, several Lotus members had to go take care of a couple things. So unfortunately, I do think we aren't gonna do an interview tonight.
Yeah, it happens from time to time, but we will make sure that we get those moving forward. Yeah, I mean, it seemed as though, Dorado Gaming, they funneled themselves to a single point, allowed for Strawberry Moon to get that massive, massive burst. And that was it. That was all she wrote. All Fizz wrote in those 25 pages. I don't even know. I don't think Aftermoon died a single time um,
Yeah, I don't
in
think
that
he did
entire
either.
game. I don't think he did. I don't think he did. I think he was
Yeah,
probably like 15-0 or something, some nonsense.
yeah,
Um, MB,
impressive
can you?
game.
What was that you
Impressive
just
game
said?
for sure. I think MB, our producer said he ended up going 12-0 in that game. Very solid. Obviously showing, it was kind of a weird game to say the least, but I think in terms of overall MVP of the series, I think Obviously, if it would have went the way of Dorado, I think Monoxia had a very strong showing in the series overall on the bot side. But Aftermoon on that Xin Zhao and that Fizz was putting in a lot of work in those team fights.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know about you, Orion, but there's always the warm up game that you get in a scrim in a match. If you lose game one, warm up game. If you win game one, you're better. Does not matter. Does not matter. But with all that said, I think we are going to call it here for this evening. Thank you all for joining us. Again, we have the YouTube channel, so make sure to check that out if you want to check out any past VODs. Obviously, you can see them here on Twitch as well. I've been Septi, joined alongside Orion with our producer, Mr. Fantastic, and our observer, Shergon. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We'll be back same time, same place next week. So we look forward to seeing you all. Remember, sub to get to be able to use those rage bait features. And yeah, we'll see you guys back next week. Have a good one.